Let me give you some advice, Isla, she said. Kill your heart before it kills you. She stepped closer. The heart is always our downfall, no matter the poetry or the lessons about love conquering all. No, the opposite. Love conquers us. It is the true ruler, the true equalizer, the true weapon and scythe among men. Hee 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 hee. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another meeting of the St. Balasar University English Club podcast, the best critique group that nobody asked for. I'm Andrew.
I'm Jay.
And we are back for a third time with an Alex Astor classic. This one is the highly anticipated sequel, Skyshade, part of the illustrious fantasy planned pentology. I was really hoping it was a trilogy, but it is not. There are 5 planned books of this. By Alex Astor. We've had a lot of fun with her. She's been some of our favorite episodes, and looking at the numbers, I think she's been some of your guys' favorite episodes. We have a lot to say about this book. Alex, I'm so glad you're back. I really hope that you enjoy and hope that we could get something out of this.
We will get something out of it. I don't know what that something will be, but it's inevitable. There's so much content. There's no way we could end this and not get something.
It's hard enough to write a sequel to one thing. I mean, we've done Nightbane, and then we've also looked at Nexus, the sequel to Zenith. There's a little bit of a challenge with the third book in a series, because every little thing that you introduce on the preceding books are now fair game for you to draw upon. But at the same time, you have to accommodate for people who might be jumping in at book 3 for whatever reason, or might have forgotten it. So it really pays not to mention things once and then bring it back up like we're supposed to know what the hell's going on. I'm glad that this book offers a lot of opportunities to discuss that.
It definitely does. It also gives us a lot of opportunities to discuss situations where Alex really doesn't want us to forget something, so it gets mentioned every page.
I think without further ado, we'll jump right into it. Just wanted to give you guys a rundown in case you are new to the club. We are real critique partners from a fictional university, and our goal is to take the negativity that we've been seeing in the book space and try to add a little bit more of a grounded spin to it. We often don't succeed in this mission, but it's always something that we attempt to do with varying degrees of success.
We give it a real college try at our fake university.
Right. So I do want to thank the Order of the Orb Fox, which is Aiden Feldkamp, Simply FJ, Pink Catsy, and Dracolith, who allowed us to do this episode. Our show is also supported on YouTube by Navari, Natalia, Hobby Moth, Mallard Griff, and most recently, Jimmy Smith and Ace. So thank you guys so much for supporting. If you're interested, you can go to our channel/join and see the membership tiers that may be right for you. If being a supporter isn't right for you, we have our Ko-Fi links in the description. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you are supporting us since we got monetized recently, and I'm still really excited about that. So thanks everyone who supports, and we hope you guys enjoy this episode.
Now that we've thanked our members, I would like to begin with a letter of non-thanks to a certain group of people. And handily, those people are listed in the back of my copy of Skyshade by Alex Astor. I'm not going to name them because their names are already written down, and if you have the book and its accompanying acknowledgments, you can go look them up for yourself. Mm-hmm. But I do just want to say that if your name is mentioned in the back of that book, there's a good chance that I am mad at you personally for making this book happen. You are failing Alex. You're failing Alex. You're making her a worse writer, and you're putting content out into the world that is a net negative for almost everyone. I will say more about that later, but I just want to put this right at the top. Stop it. Stop.
I think there are 20 names the last time I counted. You guys are hewers of wood and carriers of water wearing the skin of a literary community. And you it's just It makes me so mad, dude. Oh, man. So, I guess we'll get into exactly what elicited this emotion in us and dive into a summary of Skyshade. Despite being the shortest book by a factor of about 20 pages, which I know pages is a weird sense of measurement, but it's the exact same form factor on these things. And this is like markedly skinnier, and the enters are back. So we know that this is probably a significant chunk of words. All of Alex's worst behaviors are back. All of her worst habits, where she hits enter with synonyms, and she has really choppy sentences, and everything is compared to a bladed weapon.
Yep.
It's all back. This is a ginormous step back from Nightbane. It is manifestly a worse book than probably even Lightlark, but that might just be by virtue of the fact of how much it builds on.
Most of Alex's issues that Andrew has listed like kind of circle back to like reiteration and redundancy, whether it's at the level of the word or at the level of like the concept. She just keeps repeating herself over and over and over again. And this book is, yes, the worst example of it we've seen since Lightlark. And it's crazy that Nightbane seemed like it was fixing some of those on the more micro level, like those like hitting enter and then putting synonyms, or even just like using one-word sentences to list synonyms and ideas. Nightbane did away with a lot of those, and now they're back, and it feels like there's more of them than there were in the first book. So it's like, what happened?
It feels so bad. So I wanted to talk about the things being built up on here, and this might be overlong, but I wanted to kind of give a background of where we are right now in case you are jumping into this episode 3 installations in, or you don't remember and or you don't care. In true Nexus style, I thought I would do last time on SBU, in a pocket dimension known as Lightlark, on an island chain known as Lightlark, on an island known as Lightlark, live 6 magical societies. Having undergone centuries of a curse cutting each island off from the source of their magical power, the rulers of each island did this stupid game known as the Centennial that broke the curses, but none of that matters anymore, so don't worry about it. So, Sun Isle, having long enjoyed uncontested power, now struggles to remain on top as borders shift around it. The current King Oro is powerful and well-liked on balance, but some courtiers whisper that he took his time to break the curses, and many others take issue with his tendency to be attacked by scalies for seemingly no reason. And the barely suppressed incursion from Nightshade did little for morale. As major rulers such as Cleo and Azul deny his suzerainty with impunity, it's uncertain whether this free new world feels the need for the Sun King's protection. Moon Isle is experiencing nothing less than a spiritual upheaval. As ice melts, ruins from an ancient time are exhumed and discarded, as well as the soothsayers that once dwelt within. Cleo, the queen and chief bisexual, has the capacity to rule with an iron fist, but her fanatical inner circle would never think of questioning her. Skyling, meanwhile, bears the distinction of being the first democracy in Lightlark. Having been cut off from half of their infrastructure for centuries, King Azul and his Skylings are eager to rebuild and have little appetite for conflict. But only time will tell if the exigencies of this new world have time to wait for people to make up their minds. More than any other group, Wildling stands at the precipice of an enormous crossroads. Centuries of being unable to love and being forced to subside off of human hearts has reduced their number to the bare hundreds, and then overwhelmingly women. Facing a population crisis and a cavernous agricultural knowledge gap, they would have been condemned to oblivion were the breaker of the curses not a wildling herself. Their only relatives are the Venderlings, an offshoot group of wildlings with an irredentist claim to land in Moon Isle, but too few in number to just... They happen to be wildlings. It's so weird. I don't understand.
They exist.
They exist. They share blood. Too few in number to resist being shepherded around by larger forces, wildlings now find themselves vassals of a strange king in a stranger land. Nightshade.
Extremely willing vassals, I think we should say.
Extremely willing. Extremely freaking willing vassals. Starling represents Lightlark's greatest opportunities and its greatest threats. Having been condemned by the curses to a maximum lifespan of 25 years in a world where people live to be centuries, its first 26-year-olds shakily emerge into the dawn of a new era. They realize quickly they've traded a duplicitous leader in Aurora for a foreigner who has no interest in them in Isla. Resourceful, they use their neglect as a precedent to establish their own democracy, hoping to take matters into their own hands and defend themselves against a poorly defined slave trade and snake women who eat them all the time. I guess that's it, even though they have lightsaber powers. Starling is also the seat of a rebellion against the entire world order as Lightlark knows it. They're set on breaking the Nexus Curse, an unrelated curse which binds the ruler's life to their respective islands. But in order to break this curse, Oro Ray must die. And Nightshade is also there. So, the reason I spelled this out like I did is because in the golly gee drillion hours of this episode that are about to happen, none of this will matter. I wanted to illustrate the immensity of the things that are top of mind and very interesting and established. I didn't make up a single thing on that page. That was all in the text of Nightbane. Skyshade could have been about any or all of this, but it is not.
I would go so far as to say it should have been about at least some of it, because why else would you as a writer write it?
Every single thing I mentioned will not come back up despite being established.
I mean, maybe other than the fact that Oro is going to have to die.
Right.
Doesn't matter in this book so much, but it might still. Maybe.
One day. Maybe. So, okay.
God, speaking of neglect.
Yeah.
All of these poor ideas now go orphaned, like some 400 children consigned to a spaceship.
That's really how it feels. I miss Empress Teresa. I miss Empress Teresa. Because shit came back in Empress Teresa. I think shit paid off somehow. Okay, for real. Let's settle in. There are a billion moving parts required to understand where the book even begins, because it requires you to take so much shit for granted. So we have our love triangle. We have the 20-year-old Isla Crown and two decrepit centuries-old monsters named Oro Ray and Grimshaw Malvair. If you need any more context on them, watch our other episodes, because I cannot fucking do it. I'm sorry. I don't want to go into their characters.
I can't do it either.
No, I can't do it. They can't do it. There's a prophecy that says that she will kill one or the other, specifically with a dagger. It's fated. A lady in ice told her about this. This sucks because of the Nexus Curse, which will mean that she's also choosing which gene gets sighted when she has to fulfill this prophecy or whatever. And this is double complicated because Isla and Grimm's lives are bound together, so that if Grimm dies, all of Wildling and her and all of Nightshade will die, and vice versa. So rather than just tell anyone about this, to his credit, Grimm isn't really cool with this prophecy, so he frames this as an invasion of Lightlark. This was the plot of Nightshade, and while Oro and Isla play around and learn about magic powers, there's a fight with some snake women and some flying scalies. A whole lot of people died for what I am fairly confident is nothing, and in the heat of battle, Isla decides that she loves Grimm and Oro, but Grimm slightly more, so she teleports back with him to Nightshade. So now we are ready for Skyshade.
To distill that into two facts that you should keep in mind. Isla's life is linked to Grimm's, which, again, presumably means all of the Wildlings, all of the Nightshades, and maybe the Starlings, at least until Isla officially declares it a democracy, are linked to her and Grimm's life. And Isla has conceded that she's not a good love match for Oro, but also elsewhere in the previous book, it was confirmed that she was a perfectly good love match for him, as well as Grimm. So that front is completely unclear to me, but that's what you need to know, if nothing else, as we start the real summary.
But I want you to have everything I told you hitherto in your mind, because it was in my mind, and I want to simulate the, wait, why are we talking about this factor of every plot point. So that's the reason
it's so immediately overwhelming too. Yeah. It's like, which of these things do I actually need to care about and remember?
I have kind of a pseudo Novus playlist taxonomy. It's not quite as discreet as those arcs were, because this book is not as discreet as Novus playlist was. So
this shit's all tangled up.
So let's just take this a step at a time. Let's start with Isla and Grimm on Nightshade. So the book opens up in media res. just as Grimm teleports Isla back to Nightshade. So I thought it was interesting, genuinely, that Isla's not happy with her decision. She only did it because the prophecy made her scared, and she just didn't want to kill Oro, both because of the love and because of the Nexus curse, meaning that he would destroy all of Lightlark by dying. So I like this duplicitous angle that they're going for with Isla here. I thought it was slightly compelling. The first thing she does is make Grimm swear not to invade Lightlark again or try to use the portal on the Wildling Newland or Wild Isle that was so important. And Grimm is just like, of course, Heart, anything you say. So, Jake, I don't know if Grimm ever had a personality, but if he did, it is gone now. Is there anything to him in this book?
I don't know. I feel like he's like reactively flirty. So like if any other character trait is going to be subsumed into that, like if there's an opportunity to say something unfunny but like flirty coded, he'll say it. So yeah, him giving in seems like maybe it contradicts him being like a fairly confident ruler in the first two books, but in this case he had an opportunity to flirt, so he did that instead, I guess.
Yeah.
I did want to say I completely agree that I was really interested right away when Isla like warps to Nightshade and like regrets it, and it seems like there's going to be political intrigue in just a second. I felt like the political intrigue was trying to pay off like stuff that had been set up in Lightlark and in Nightbane, where both of those books seemed like there was going to be, like you said, duplicity and some kind of element of like diplomacy and espionage, and then they didn't. So I thought maybe finally we were getting that. We don't. But for a minute, it seems like we might. And that was a good feeling.
I understood what was going on here. Isla's goal is to bide her time and work with and against her scary fake husband to make sure that she can unbind her life from his safely, prevent an invasion of Lightlark, and save Nightshade from these monster storms that we're about to get into. She has a lot of guilt from the big battle, rightly so. So she's like sneaking healing elixir to Lightlark. And even though Grimm's loyalty is unquestionable, he's got this General Astria and the soldier Tynan. This is like shaping up to be the first ACOTAR, where this is like when Farah goes to Fairyland with Tamlin the Ferryman. She doesn't trust Grimm, but there's this ineluctable, juicy attraction. We have new customs to learn, a new court intrigue to happen. She has this relic of her past life in the form of the golden necklace that she gets from Oro, the golden rose necklace. So you know there's going to be angst. And I was like, okay, maybe this book is shorter because it's more self-contained. It's a slower paced kind of thing. I was legitimately interested in where this book was going to go.
Seems like a court setting surrounded by enemies and one person who considers himself her ally, but who she increasingly considers an enemy himself, would lend itself really nicely to characters sitting down, like we talked about in Nightbane, and having like very tense but very interesting conversations about, as you said, how to unbind various people's lives from various genes so that they don't get sighted. And I was excited to see how Aster would handle that, given that some of our favorite scenes in the past books have been ones where Azul and Isla sit down, or Cleo and Isla sit down and like talk about what the hell is going on this entire planet.
But we won't get that. I really hate what happens to Grimm's character in Skyshade. He'll act like this evil conqueror guy in front of his courtiers and everything, but then all he says to Isla ever is like a poetic declaration of undying love. He is prostrating for just one crumb of Creator Cave, like sometimes quite literally on his knees. So like Isla has nothing to fear from this guy. There's no tension there other than like, I guess, the magic curse thing, but still. So like we think there's going to be some duplicity. He promises his soldiers in public that they're going to re-invade Lightlark, but then he'll swear to Isla that he just said it to buy time because Nightbane is getting these storms that we've never heard about. They're these crazy ass monster storms. Not like figurative monster storms. I mean, it rains demons that kill people. Just like,
and metal.
And metal. And diseases. And somehow the portal was supposed to like fix that or let them move somewhere else. I genuinely have no idea what the portal is doing in relationship to the storms, but they're related somehow.
It's the second portal that we find about later that's letting them in, right?
Right. But
They're
we don't
trying to
know
find the source to close it. Yeah.
We don't know that there's a second portal yet. Oh.
There's always a second portal. The classic saying.
Right.
I want to point out, while we're still technically in the first chapter, that Isla ends this chapter with a declaration to save the world, which it is not in danger at this moment. At this moment, it will be in danger later, but like right now, the world is not actually under any kind of threat. There's some political tensions, but like the world is not about to explode. I just found that very weird and hokey. It's like such a cliche way to try to hook the reader in if they're not already hooked.
It's not good. There's a lot of stupid stuff. Lynx the leopard is still back. Grimm makes Isla a throne out of shadow, like the coagulated absence of light given form. I don't know. Everything is as aesthetically mature as Cold Steel the Hedgehog, but for 14 pages, I was into it. For 14 pages, I gave a shit, Alex. But this piece was not to last, because we moved to the creepy blacksmith.
Yay!
The blacksmith's back, baby! So
that's a thing that I remember. I remember that thing.
I know what that is. So apropos of nothing, she goes to this creepy blacksmith from one stupid before chapter in Nightbane, where like he tried to murder her, and I think he also tried to eat her or get her blood or something, and she stabbed his eyeball out. But now they're bitter, like, frenemies now.
It was also, like, prohibitively difficult to get there the first time. I don't know how she does it in this book, like, 6 times without any issue.
She star sticks. I don't know. I don't remember. But yes, she just shows up at his house and he's like, here to take the other eye, Isla. And I'm like, what the? Who is this guy?
Why, he's Farrar, you see.
You were getting way ahead of ourselves. He's actually not Farrar. I have so much to say about that. She tells him, for no reason, that she wants magic gauntlets to suppress her power, because Alex doesn't feel like writing any more scenes of Isla figuring out her powers or using them in interesting ways. Isla is just so worried about what chaos her unchecked powers could bring. I have no idea if Isla just like made this up and happened to get it right, or it's a known magical item, but whatever. I'll give the benefit of the doubt that I probably like missed something there. The blacksmith is like 100% cool with doing this, but on one condition, Jay. The one condition is if Isla can freaking murder him in return. He's like, ever since I was a little boy, I've always wanted to die. But okay, so apparently he's been cursed with immortality because he's such a good blacksmith or whatever. But since Isla is immune to curses, she can kill him. Keep the weird transitive power of like her flair of being curse immune thing in mind, because this is going to come back again. But like while you're at it, apply it to the rest of the series too. So Isla can touch a knife. Isla is not cursed herself, but in touching this knife and pressing it into the chest of this cursed man who cannot die, that allows him to break the curse and not die, right?
Yes,
so
that is how it works.
The curse breaking passes through Isla's hands.
This is easy. This is just a case of Alex Astor still not knowing what words mean. I brought this up in Lightlark. I really harped on it then. I felt mean, so I didn't bring it up as much in Nightbane. But like, Isla has a curse breaking or curse immune flare, and that flare is supposed to apply to her. Like she is immune to curses, and she can break curses that are on her.
Right.
But like when it's convenient, she can also just, as you said, like be immune to curses that are affecting other people, or like make other people's curses disappear because she's immune to them.
Right.
And it's like that. You should have just called the power something different and made that clearer from the outset.
Yeah, curse breakiness. The blacksmith just whips her up a couple bracelets made out of a metal called Shade Made, which is the worst name for a fantasy metal I have ever heard. It's worse than unobtainium. It's worse than adamantium. It's what the hell does Shade Made mean? Is it a trademark of some alloy that like Cronin Malvere made? Is that like his name for the product? We can't call it like, I don't know, tenebrium. umbrium, tenebrite.
Umbrium, yeah.
Yeah, or obsidian. It could just be obsidian. Like, it bothered me so much that it's called Shade Maid, but it's just a Faraday cage for magic powers, basically. So, with that done, we move on to Wraith the Marketable Dragon and more storm shit.
Yippee! Yay. Yeah, so Isla learns how to fly Wraith the Dragon, we learn is now fully grown. Last time we saw him was in a flashback.
Whose name we learn is Wraith, because he was not named in Nightbane.
No, he was not. His name's Wraith. I don't know why. He's not immaterial or stealthy or known for shrieking or haunting. He's just a big dragon called Wraith.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because this name will later be called Apt in the book. And no, it is not. No, it is not, for all of the reasons that Jay just said. I don't understand. I want to know what I want to know what Alex thinks Wraith means. I want to sit her down and ask her to define this word.
I would like to ask her to define a lot of words, but this one might just be on the top of my list as of right now. Wraith's conspicuous size and general bulkiness is in fact a problem later in the book. So like this name doesn't just not really make sense, it kind of makes unsense a little bit.
Unsense.
Also, this is when we get introduced to the storms. So as Andrew was starting to explain, this entire time, somehow without us ever once hearing about it, Nightshade, that's the country, has been beset every fall, I was assuming. I just said it was fall in my head. Some season, there's a bunch of storms.
Right. And
they don't know yet where they're coming from. But these quote-unquote storms are like more like the biblical plagues of Egypt, in that they like are mass scale and they do some kind of random magical fuckery that just messes people's shit right up.
Right.
And they never know where they're going to strike or when. So Isla and Grimm have to be constantly vigilant because they want to try to get to the middle of these storms and stop them while they're still happening.
There's this like fun and games montage scene where Wraith is like a Disney dog. Like, I hate this trope where like every animal is a dog. Like, there are other animals. Like, even if he were like analogous to a horse and used horse behaviors. How to Train Your Dragon, they used cats as the behavior model for that. Like, I don't know. I like dogs, but like I don't know why this bothers me so much, but like he likes belly rubs and he likes like, ooh, you're a good boy, and I'm like, what is going on here? So they fly now. They have this little montage and they go to this village that's been attacked, or not attacked, it's been befallen by one of these storms. And let me tell you, I keep calling her Isla. Alex has made me
why might that be?
I don't know. Alex has made me fucking despise the word creature. I'm not gonna do the Alex watched our episode bit again like I did with Nightbane, but again, this feels like in real critique group how you will tell someone to do something or to not do something, and then they'll overcorrect and like do the exact opposite in a worse way. So like, we told Alex, pretend Alex is like actually in our club. We told Alex in the first instance that we wanted more original creatures. She gives us Antler Bear in the second. We give her shit for it, but then it turns out that Alex has aphantasia and can literally not conceive of fanciful images in her mind. So she just gives us the most vague, inconceivable, dreamlike descriptions that absolutely do not suffice. Like, Isla and Grimm ask the village elder what attacked them, and the villager just says teeth. It just says teeth.
He's like, it was something. It was definitely there. And I saw it personally. I did. And so did everybody else.
And it killed some people, but then it disappeared.
Yep. And they're dead. And it's gone.
Right.
Was here, though.
Right.
Teeth.
So that actually is a completely nothing scene. The real reason this happens is so Isla can learn to fly by means that aren't Oro flying, because she can use the sunling powers because she loves Oro to fly. But now that she has her bracelets, we have to conceive like new ways of doing shit, because her new goal is to find some way around this prophecy by talking to the other two ladies frozen in ice. You see, the Oracle, was she an Oracle? What the hell was she? The lady.
Yeah, it
in
was
ice.
one of Cleo's oracles.
Right. One of the ladies
Of which
frozen
there
in
are
ice.
3.
There are 3. There was only one that has ever spoken. The other 2 are like recessed further into the ice. For some reason, the ice in Moon Isle was starting to melt. So like Cleo took them out. And apparently, I don't know if I missed this detail or like Isla just assumes and ends up being right. But she's just like going around on her boat with these like ladies frozen in ice, just like captured, like they're in the brig or whatever, still in their ice blocks, presumably.
I was just imagining that Cleo had put the 2 ice blocks in like a big wooden tub so that they're slowly melting and they're just in the cargo hold with a bunch of like, I don't know, spices and tea and stuff. Like she just treats them as like objects.
Right. So Isla realizes that she wants to do this, and then the Wraith thing happens. So like this starts this pattern of every time Isla wants to do something, the key is handed to her the very next thing she does. It is literally insane, but I don't care. I'd rather have this than have to have her like noodle on something for too long.
Yeah, so she flies to Cleo's ship, which she knows how to find
somehow.
The oracles are there, but they're dead because Cleo killed them.
Right.
But not before, like, extracting every single prophecy that they would have said had they been allowed to live.
Right.
I don't know how she knows that that's what she got, but that's what she tells Isla she was able to obtain from them. And when Isla's like, so you're gonna tell me now, right? And Cleo's like,
no.
Lol, no.
The scene is she finds the ship, she lands the dragon, she walks into the captain's chambers. That happens, she leaves. There's nothing else that occurs.
Nothing.
And then Isla just goes away.
It's literally like the Snake Lady when she was like, hey, Snake Lady, I need you to join my army because you are legally my vassal.
Right.
And the Snake Lady's like, I'm not going to do that. So then Isla waits 20 chapters, goes back and does the exact same thing again. And the Snake Lady's like, why are you here? Nothing has changed. And Isla's like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. So, will I see you at the volleyball game this weekend? Or...
the intramural volleyball game. She'd be good for it. She'd like whack it with her snake tail. Hey, write that scene.
We need a beach vacation, AU.
Yeah. So she goes back just in time to Nightshade to find out that Poppy and Tara have returned.
Somehow.
Yeah, somehow. I thought Poppy was dead. Tara tried to kill her. Tara tried to murder Isla in Nightbane. Like, I swear I'm not making this up. Like, there was a fight scene and like... Nope. Tara was evil.
At the Place of Mirrors.
Right? At the Place of Mirrors.
Do you remember why they fought? Because I couldn't remember, like, why, like, what Tara's motivation was for doing that would no longer be in place now.
Stopping Isla from getting into the portal.
Okay.
I think. Or stopping Isla from stopping Grimm from getting into the portal. It hinged around access to the portal in the vault.
I don't know why they're friends now, but they are.
But they just come up to her and they're like, hey, bestie, so it's us. We didn't kill your parents. Can we be friends now? Which, one, Isla doesn't believe. And two, again, Tara tried to murder Isla in the last book. So let's say there's unambiguously no way that Poppy and Tara killed her parents. Isla has pretty damn good reason to not want to hang out with Poppy and Tara, or at least Tara, you know, like she should have them be executed. Like, I don't get it. So, but... And
that's setting aside the years of child abuse.
Right. So, I'm on Isla's side here. Like, these people should be dead. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, they exist to tell Grimm and Isla that all of the Nightbane has died, and that's the plant that creates the healing elixir. So, that's a little bit of, like, tragic irony for you, that the last thing Isla did was sneak out all of the healing elixir to Lightlark to help after the war effort. A storm came through, and I guess it just killed it all.
That's what they say.
But is
it the truth?
Ooh.
Also, in this chapter, we learn that it turns out that Nightshade has its own oracle and has this entire time. Right. And he lives at the top of an evil mountain. And Isla and Grimm are going to go there because they couldn't get the information they needed from the ice oracles. So instead, they're going to the evil, spooky oracle, who I choose to imagine as the same exact person, but wearing a black robe. instead of like a light blue ice-colored robe.
But JJ, it's not an oracle. It's a prophet. It's a distinct form of prestidigitator.
Right. I'm sorry. I forgot. I can't wait until Crown's world, where we get to meet the soothsayer and the scryer.
So this is an unfathomable amount of whiplash, as Jay's already been talking about, because like every time I think I'm on solid ground with this book, they will introduce a completely new set of people and a new location to wrap my head around. What do you mean there's a prophet? Who is he associated with? What's his relationship to Grimm? Because apparently Grimm went up there to ask about like the portal stuff and like the Destiny Bond thing, and they didn't let him in because he wasn't worthy enough or something like that. I don't know. So but he's like, oh, he couldn't hang, but he's like, I've gone up this mountain before, so I'll take you, we'll go together, it'll be fun. So this kicks off. I didn't read most of this shit because I did, and it passed over me like water, because it's a Pokemon mystery dungeon that they go to. Yeah. It is a series of like maze-like floors that you travel up, and there are like nondescript insectoid monsters that attack you. None of it matters. It's different every time, so Grimm can't like just show her the way through. And it's all so bad. I don't know what monsters attacked her. I don't know what stupid thing they like drowned or like swam through some water. There's supposed to be some romantic tension. They get wet and then they have to like sexily change their clothes and warm up, but just like ew.
Yeah, the romance in this part feels so token, and that's going to be a thing throughout this book, where like increasingly all of the romantic tension just feels like such an afterthought. Right. And this is, I think, like probably one of the first places that becomes evident. But it literally does feel like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon in the way that they go through like a succession of completely self-contained, completely sequential micro challenges, as though it was meant to be consumed on some sort of portable console for children. It'd be easy to put it down and pick it back up at any time.
Right. So they get to floor B3F or 3F. I want to point out a small thing. A small thing is like, and this is not unique to this part of the book, but it's just kind of emblematic of a broader Aster issue. The prophet is never named. His followers are never given a title. They're not like the Lichen Eaters or the Order of Xatu and Rayquaza or like whatever. They're just the prophet - followers every single time. So I thought that was kind of weird.
Not capitalized, so that's not their name.
No. This is like just the literary equivalent of harsh noise just bearing down upon me. And I'm just like, I'd rather be playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon.
But it gets better, because not only is there the prophet not capitalized, but the prophet tells them to seek out the augur, also not capitalized, because the augur is the one that they need to get the information from for some reason.
Right.
But the prophet does tell them first that some kind of betrayal is going to happen, and he calls Isla the World Maker and says that storms are coming from a second portal.
Chart this out for me. The prophet is dead. The person who talks to them is this woman named Eta, E-T-A, like the Greek letter that makes the E sound and looks like an H. She just is like, here is a book bound in the prophet's skin and written in his blood. It has never been wrong. And that gives me more ideas for what to do after Jay's funeral. And it's just, it is so annoying. She speaks in all these like vague innuendos and whispers and gives Isla a million nicknames like Isla Worldmaker and Isla Harbinger. And yeah, so she says all the crap out in the portal. She's like, go see the augur.
Please don't laugh when I say this, because it actually is true. This is like a off-brand version of a Kafka story. The way that like the goal never gets any closer. They keep getting passed off to, instead of bureaucrats, various sorcerers and workers of magic. nothing gets accomplished. Nobody seems to actually have what they need. It's always just one step away. If you just go to this discrete location that you've never heard of, but you always knew about somehow, because of course it always existed,
right,
then you can get the thing that you need to finally go to the place that you need and help the people that you want to help, and then it'll all be okay.
Right.
But it keeps getting delayed and delayed and delayed, and it's just like, oh my god, I can't keep track of what's happening anymore in this world. I don't know how these characters keep track of what's going on.
They don't.
I think if I was in this story, I would be forgetting what it was I was supposed to be doing.
Right,
which is probably why I would keep seeking out prophets and augurs and oracles who would just tell me. So actually, you know what? I'm changing my mind. It all makes perfect sense. Internally consistent.
I was going to save this for later, but yeah, this book is more Nova's Playlist than Nova's Playlist. Jay, you were talking about a feeling of dread because everything can be taken away from you by one god teleport. Everything can be taken away from you by one storm that was never established before. There's always something else. I'm like getting heart palpitations thinking about it. It's so stressful. We gotta get through this. We gotta do this. Okay, so there are some motifs explained that I wanted to bring up just so you have them like in your mind. There's the concept of like burying a body and having them power the earth above it, which I think is kind of cool. The creation of Lightlark was done by this means, according to Ida. But yeah, she just tells her to go like talk to the augur who lives somewhere else and not here. And this will be spelled Augur, which is, you know, like a prognosticator, like a diviner, fortune teller, soothsayer. And then it will be called augur, like the thing that you make holes in the ground with, which is really funny. Thank you, Alex, for having a crack editing team. Thank you, 20 people, for doing your jobs.
Thanks, Amulet.
Yeah. And there's one more warning. It was there's a wildling traitor in your midst. Follow the snakes. Dun dun dun. But then Azul is back, baby. Let's go. It's Azul time. No, I'm just kidding. He's back for like a couple pages and then he's never brought up again.
Like everybody else, he has been reduced to basically a big vending machine for magic items.
Right.
And he dispenses unto her a ring that can stop storms if she can get it into the center of a storm.
Right. Just a couple storm rings. And this feels so cruel to me because it's like Alex is making fun of me because there is a little bit of tension at first because the last time Azul and Isla had been together was before that Isla betrayed Lightlark. So like what is it? Like Azul does this like Sans Undertale thing where he's acting all like happy-go-lucky, but like he's masking like this rage and disappointment and anger. And like it doesn't matter because he's a vending machine, but it could have been something.
It feels like this book forgot all the character dynamics that should be in play here,
right?
Because the last time that Isla and Azul spoke, to my recollection, was when she was trying to convince him to join Oro.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to, but was outvoted by his like semi-democratic, what do they call it? It's like a congress of Skyshades who vote on whether or not you go to war or something. The Skylanders decided not to go to war. But they did send a like flight squadron to Oro and Isla as like a token of like continued amicable political relations.
Right.
So now Isla is showing up after having gone through all the trouble of arranging that, and she is suddenly like Grimm's wife. She has betrayed Oro. So you would think that Azul would be like, why'd you put me through all that political stuff?
Right.
If like you're just gonna turn around at the last second and like waste all of our time. But that just doesn't ever come into play at all.
Oh, she also gets a canary for the coal mine that will sing the most beautiful song that you've ever heard before the big storm comes. I think this is only ever used once. And this might just be me. I'm willing for this to just be my misunderstanding. But this is framed and talked about in a way that I thought like the next time the Stormfinch sings would be the big storm to end all storm, that like the last one, not just like any old storm. You know, were you also given that impression?
No,
okay.
I mean, I thought it was going to be every storm, but I think what you were assuming is like a more natural, like narratively, like comfortable, familiar assumption.
Okay. I guess I was expecting too much comfort from my Lightlark book.
I guess so. This book is truly a literary masterpiece. It's there to comfort the uncomfortable and unsettle the settled.
While she's traveling, she decides to take a stop by Wild Isle. So not the Wild Isle, Wildling Newlands, and she goes to her old house. She goes to the old greenhouse that she used to live in, and she finds the feather. Let's go.
The feather.
The one that was in the orb that we made fun of and is an item in my TTRPG. I didn't predict any of this. I actually had it be completely useless, but apparently the tip is really sharp, so it must be a writing quill. So she just writes her name on a piece of paper, leaves the quill there, and then goes back to Nightshade without it. So forget about that for a little bit.
This is nitpicking, I admit, but if it had a metal tip on it, she would have known that from the beginning, and she wouldn't have called it a feather to start with. She would have called it a quill. Like, how do you not notice that when you pick it up the first time?
That's a good question, because, like, what color is the feather, right? Like, is the feather black so you can't tell that this iridescent black tip is on the top of it, or...
I could have sworn they said it was white at some point.
I felt like it was white in my mind palace. So yeah, I mean, I don't freaking know. Maybe it was like buried in the shaft of the feather. So like it's just like a very thin needle prick. I don't know.
What, like you can click it?
Yeah, like you can click it. I don't know.
The world's first ballpoint quill.
So whatever, don't worry about the feather for right now. We finally go back to Nightshade and see how the wildlings are doing, because 2 off-screen Empress Teresa exoduses later, I was starting to get worried about these guys, and it's honestly disappointing because they're just fine. Except for the storms, I guess.
Fine.
Yeah, they've settled at this holdfast, which just happens to be Isla's father's old holdfast. This gets Isla really sad about having no family. So, again... Isla is presented with the problem. And then the second paragraph, Grimm comes up to her and she's like, oh, Astria, that general that doesn't trust you, she's your cousin. So yay, you guys are friends now.
Like, why? Why are they related? What does this add to anything?
So if you recall, there was a character in Nightbane called Rin who became like the de facto leader of the wildlings. I don't think she ever overtook the position as ruler, but like she was the one who's like, don't worry, Isla, we got this. You go have fun with your Nightbane adventures. And like, she's the reason that so much of wildling stuff happened off screen. Her name might as well be Red Herring, because she's just like, hey, check out this one tree I have in the middle of nowhere that's just crawling with snakes because the venom has medicinal properties. We're using it to supplement our lack of elixir. Here's a snake that you can use as a bracelet, Isla. I think the snake only gets used one time. I don't remember. Like, the snake comes and goes, the little bracelet snake. I thought it was kind of cool, but like, what the f***?
I don't know, it's beyond comment. Like,
Beyond
what do you even
reproach.
say about that? I'm not gonna reproach it because I don't know what to say. Like, this book has just introduced picoseconds ago the idea that there is a traitor and that they are going to be affiliated with snakes in some way. Then, within pages, a character who heretofore had nothing to do with snakes appears and is like, hey, check out all these snakes. I sure do love snakes. Anyway, here's a snake for you. Like, of course she's not going to be the traitor. Why would you even do that? Why would you bother with that? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
And then because Ren is like, we really need to figure out who this traitor person is.
Right.
Isla's like, oh, okay, I know what we'll do. I will individually interview every single wildling and see if I can figure out who it is just by talking to all of them, one after the other.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know what she's looking for.
Snakes!
And then when, of course, that doesn't work, she's like, oh, that didn't work. Anyway.
Anyways, but there's more red herrings though. It's not just Rin, because later Isla happens to overhear like a war council that Grimm's holding, and then one of the guys in Grimm's council calls Isla a snake colloquially, like she's a traitor, she's lurking in our midst. And then Grimm super fucking kills him, and she's like, wow, people are dying, and I am a snake right now. I need to know how long I have before the prophecy comes true, and I really do betray Grimm and kill him and whatever. Which obviously sets us up for, like, Isla is the traitor. Like, Isla is a traitor to herself, and that's where the association with snakes comes in, which I thought would be kind of cool. It wouldn't be the most original twist in the world, but it would make sense. I could scratch my chin and be like, I should have seen that coming. Yes. But no, Isla is not the traitor either, guys. Don't worry.
And in case you're wondering, it's not the Snake Lady from Nightbane either. If you're thinking, oh, there's a snake-related plot point that's been left completely dangling, and now we're talking about snakes all of a sudden, with conspicuous frequency, those must be connected.
Nope.
No. Just no.
Yeah, that's the best part about this series, is that we could explain who the traitor isn't for the rest of the day, and it will still not be obvious who we're talking about, because you could just make shit up. You just make new shit.
Yeah.
So this leads us into a little segment I like to call Exactly 13 Hearts. The Augur is known to want blood as his, like, price for admittance or whatever. So Isla for auging. So Isla dresses in, and I quote, her dagger-filled pants.
Dagger-filled pants!
Just like...
I like to imagine that they're jangling in her pockets like a bunch of change. Yeah. And they're just conspicuously bulging, and like some of the blades are poking out through the fabric.
So she takes her dagger-filled pants and she walks them down to Crime Town, or I guess Loot Alley.
Loot Alley.
Loot Alley or whatever it was in Powerless. She strolls around looking for, like, some crime that is worthy of death. She finds this guy just choking a woman outside of a brothel, so she kills him. And let me get something straight. Let me get something completely 100% clear to the SVU community. I am a red-blooded American, Jay. I fully support extrajudicial violence. In fact, I think violence should only be committed extrajudiciously. However, I must say that murdering people for a fetch quest, and just by wandering around and waiting for creeps to be creepy, just because it's like morally convenient or whatever, feels a little bit weird for my belief system. I don't know exactly how to parse this.
Yeah, I don't either, because, like, if this guy really is, like, a serial abuser, yeah, maybe he can go. But like, there's something weird about Isla, like, perusing the streets for individuals that she personally gets to decide should be put to the blade. And, you know, she is a monarch, so I guess that's within her purview, but it still feels, like, predatory.
Right. Huh. Yeah. Weird. I don't know if I'm really cool with it. Anyways, this is framed like it's Isla's villain arc, like it's her dark side coming out, because she really likes it. So she takes the heart to the Augur's cave, but the Augur refuses to let her in. He just says, more. So Isla kills 3 more creeps, bringing her total up to 4. She calls them, like, wicked hearts, which I thought was kind of a funny thing to call them. And then the Augur just says, more. So Isla goes back with 8 more hearts. And then the Augur just lets her in. He's like, yep, 13 hearts. That's exactly the price of admittance nowadays. You know, with inflation like it is, it used to be 12. Like, my favorite part, bar none, of this whole situation is how, like, again, with these signposts that Alex is putting up here in the narrative, I was expecting more to mean, like, I want hearts that are more dear, or I want hearts that are more strong, or something related to a heart that is not the actual physical organ. But no, the Augur just needed specifically 13 hearts. Why?
Because that's how escalation works in a narrative, is you just add more stuff. And if that's not an ethos that's reflected everywhere in this book,
right,
then I don't know what is.
I guess so. So he has this pool of blood in his auguring cave that he pours out the hearts into. And hold on a second here, because legitimately, science side of SBU, let me know, because if it weren't for borrowed prescription stimulants, I would not have passed high school biology. But I am pretty sure that the capacity of human heart, especially if it's been violently carved out of a body by force and then carried around in a sack on the back of a leopard, I don't think it would contain a significant amount of blood that could fill up a pool, but I could be wrong.
Seems unlikely.
It seems unlikely. I don't know what the capacity of a heart is to store blood that cleanly for that long under those circumstances.
Also, these are being brought to the auger over the course of several nights. So
right.
The ones that were brought first, you would think would not be in the best shape
right.
by the end of the week,
right.
or whatever.
The auger's just spewing bullshit. None of it matters. He just talks about blood and how powerful the blood is. And to find out how long Isla has to live, they both step into this pool of blood. Or they try to, and nothing happens. Isla, drowns, and she sees some visions, and, I don't know.
He tells her that she is the most powerful entity ever.
Right.
Full stop.
And that her blood speaks in many tongues, which I thought was a throwaway line, but it actually does come back. So remember that, I guess. But You won't last through the storm season. Your only hope to get more time is through Skyers. Skyers are a hitherto completely unknown, unattested in the corpus of the series, magical runes, which are like the Mortal Instrument steelies that you write on yourself and they give you powers depending on what the shape is. But before they can go, Isla gets shown this cave drawing of this woman in snake clothes that looks just like her. Oh my god. She's been promised since the Paleolithic era.
She is the traitor after all.
Whoa,
she always was.
It looks just like her. Isla goes back home to mope in an arc I call Tynan the Baptist. We are barraged with all of these crazy green flags from Grimm. He remembers all of her favorite foods. He says that he knows how to cook. The thing that he cooks in the scene is hot chocolate, which I would call heating rather than cooking. I'm not much of a culinary person, but I think that would be called heating.
Yeah.
But, maybe
even just combining. Crafting, perhaps.
If there's one thing we know about Grimm and Isla, they love their chocolate. So.
Oh boy, do they.
She wakes up one morning, Fourth Wing style, to find that Tynan is trying to kill her. I briefly mentioned him earlier. We didn't go into this, but he has the power to control minds by touching them. So that's pretty weird. I don't like that power can just exist unchecked in this world. That says a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't remember if I said this or not. The book gaslit me to thinking that Tynan or Astria was in Nightbane or Lightlark. They are not. They are not there. I don't know where these people came from, but Isla just has known them for 2 days, so...
Is Astria not mentioned in Nightbane? I could have sworn she popped up once.
My friend Anna archived me an ebook, so I was able to, control search. So either my e-reader is buggy, or I did the search wrong, or she spelled it differently in the book.
Yeah.
Or maybe I do remember a big female general. So I think Astria, the concept was there. I don't think the word Astria was used though. I do remember a female general. I don't know. Anyways, so that's neither here nor there. So Lynx saves the day because Lynx sleeps in the room with her and incapacitates Tynan, and then Grimm shows up, and then he goes up to kill Tynan, and Isla's like, no, let me. And this is darkly satisfying to her. They behead the corpse, throw it in front of the Nightshade court, and make snakes eat it to underscore her villain arc and tell her that she's not to be messed with.
In the movie version of this, there will be the craziest pop song playing over the moment where Isla walks into the council chamber clad in snakes and throws the head down onto the floor.
Right. Later on, Astria will allude to the fact that Tynan had a habit of using his mind control powers for exactly what you think a creepy, scary man would use mind control powers for. So we don't have to think about anything in terms of the relative morality here, but great. Since Astria knows, I think Grimm would have known too, which is weird, but...
He didn't at least care that, like, that person would have access to his allegedly beloved wife. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Grimm to not give a shit about what happens to every underling in his army, but you would think he would at least be concerned about that person having some kind of proximity to the one person he loves that he would kill everyone in the world for.
Right. You would. You freaking would.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Clarin moment. Hashtag Clarin moment.
Literally. There's some discussion about Isla's dad. None of this matters. We learned that he was serious and that he had the same frown as Isla, which I think is funny. They go on for 3 pages about it. Don't worry about it. I guess it's supposed to show Isla and Astria getting closer now that they know they're each other's cousin, which I think Astria already knew and just never told her. So
yeah, just didn't say anything.
Yeah. So we move on to a little section I like to call the Horcrux. Later, Isla gets bored and nostalgic, so she takes Lynx to the Wildling Newland again to run around. She visits the greenhouse again to retrieve old knives, which is so funny to me because she has never lacked for knives this entire time. Why does she need more from her stupid greenhouse? But oh, Jay, it turns out there's new writing by the feather that she had been messing with earlier.
Whose handwriting is it in?
It's Aurora's handwriting!
Oh my god!
Wow, that's crazy!
Well, since her ex-best friend, is now able to contact her, they sort of left things on a rather sour note.
Yeah.
I'm sure Isla has lots of questions.
So much.
About Aurora Celeste's motivations.
Right.
What she was going to do when she had taken over the world,
right.
Whether she actually cared about Isla at all, or whether it truly was just a ploy. Maybe Isla harbors some guilt for never realizing that Celeste was Aurora and wants to vent that to somebody who would understand.
Right.
Surely.
Even like, how's hell, you piece of shit? Like she could just react in anger.
Hey, wait, so this is confirmation that there is an afterlife?
Right.
Have you found the series of keypads that leads you directly to the Chamber of Hades yet?
How are the velociraptors? Can the Japanese
Can
people
you speak Japanese still, or no?
So normally I would wait to go into a digression this long, but like, this is crazy. This is an astronomical missed opportunity, and it could have just been the 10 pages that would have brought this up to the same length as the other books. Is just have Isla be like, wow, this is my dead friend's handwriting that I know because we love each other and we sent each other annotated books to each other, and I hate her and she betrayed me and I have feelings about it, but no, she's just like, hey, Aurora, do you know what Skyers are? And Aurora's just like, yes, I do.
Isla turns the knob on the Aurora plot device vending machine and out rolls a little trinket, and it's the answer yes. Here's all the information you need.
The fact that it is Aurora means nothing. Nothing. It could have been a magical feather that is just itself. Like, it's just a magical feather. It didn't have to be Aurora. Maybe Isla could think it is Aurora, but like... Okay, whatever. Okay. So this is literally just a Horcrux. I guess Alex finally got around to reading book 2 of Harry Potter, which she like thought the diary was really cool. The tip of the feather, like we mentioned, is shade made. The blacksmith confirms it, and also that this is an ancient artifact from the other world. He also drops that he's also from the other world. So whatever. There's no time to experiment with this feather or think about it or even use it much, because it's time to give the the dragon, a bath. And they go on a romantic, flirty flight where they fall into a pond. And like Isla says that she would have drowned because there were so many daggers on her had Grimm not have shadow powers to save her, which is not romantic to me. I don't know.
No, also she held her breath for like 1,000,000 years in the first book in Cleo's underwater ice maze.
Yeah, you're right.
And she was hallucinating during that. And she was presumably just as strapped with knives and blades of various sorts. So I don't know what this is about.
So this ends in Grimm proposing a wedding ceremony to galvanize Isla's position in the Nightbane court. Kind of just to assuage any doubts of her loyalty, since, I don't know, she beheaded a general and threw his head to be eaten by snakes in front of everybody. There's probably some people who aren't super happy with Isla right now and would like to have a feel-good moment. And Isla begrudgingly accepts this because despite all the romantic stuff going on, she still says that she doesn't trust Grimm, but she's so magnetically drawn to him, but she doesn't trust him because he's a traitor, but she's also a traitor. And it's just so angsty.
Angsty and totally directionless. But they do get married.
They do get married. But before they get married, Isla decides that she wants to keep hanging out in Loot Alley, even without the incentive of getting hearts for the Augur. She just does that. She runs into a woman she saved in the exploits. I think it was the first woman who was being choked, but I could be wrong. Her name is Saoirse. They quickly form this syndrome Mr. Incredible vibe where Saoirse really wants to hang out and go on adventures murdering creeps with Isla, and Isla's like, fly home, buddy. I work alone. So Isla's this folk hero now known as the Heart Ripper. And she hangs out in bars with Saoirse and these other people, and she gets some gossip. Apparently, Grimm is a well-liked ruler as far as Nightshade rulers go. He helps out personally and gives out food to the poor or whatever, which is supposed to be this green flag. It goes nowhere, but I guess it's supposed to make us swoon right before the big day, which is still not to come anytime soon, because Oro's back, baby! He just shows up in her window one night like Tynan, but less murdery, and he's like, I feel our love bond weakening. I thought you were in trouble. So he Superman flew over the ocean all this way just to make sure that she was okay. And then they almost kiss about it, but they can't because the Stormfinch starts singing. Oh no!
God, why didn't he just send her a text or something?
He shows up, and then the Stormfinch starts singing, and Isla runs out, and Oro will be sitting in her room waiting, I guess just sitting and petting Lynx for however long what we're about to say takes place. He's just sitting there.
I mean, yeah, it would have been a long time in the book, but in terms of summary, all we really need to say is that they go try to fight a storm, and it's full of big chunks of metal that are flying around, which predictably annihilate Wraith and strike him down.
Right.
So they crash land, and they fail to find the center of the storm and put an end to it. Right. The end.
Wait. There's a creature. There's a creature in the storm. There's a Hydra that shoots lightning at them.
Okay, great. Cool. A snake of some description, apparently. A serpent.
Right, a creature. It is well documented and memed on and alluded to by us that Alex has aphantasia by her own admission. I would go so far as to say that Alex does not have theory of mind because I have no idea what we're supposed to be taking from scenes like this. I don't think Alex knows that other people can see things. So they survive the crash landing, the storm just vanishes, Isla goes back and finds Oro still in her bedroom. He's just sitting there patiently waiting with the pet leopard.
Waiting for someone to come up and press A.
But she's too scared of the prophecy, so she portals them back to Sun Isle. Lassie tricks Oro and hands him back the Golden Rose. But before she can leave, one of the Avengers group of friends that Oro has, Zed, shows up out of nowhere with a bow and shoots her 1,000,000 times with arrows. She escapes to the wildling settlement on Nightshade. Grimm senses her injuries and comes to find her, and he's all like, who did this to you? I'm super duper gonna murder their skin off because I love you so much, Isla. But she doesn't narc on Oro, and Grimm just stitches up the wound, no big deal. There is zero consequence to the storm. except for the Oro thing, which is incidental to the storm. Wraith ends up being just fine. Isla heals just fine. She goes back to Loot Alley to hang out with Saoirse some more. Grim
catches them at it,
right,
and they almost have sex in an alley because he is so turned on by the fact that she too likes to go murder the skin off of random people,
right?
But they don't have sex.
He loves this feminist murder spree that he's doing. He's like, yeah, I probably should have killed them in prison anyways, so you're just saving me some time. I love this.
But you're such a girl boss.
Such a girl boss. He's like, okay, since we're not gonna have sex, I'll go then. Bye. Have fun, honey. I'll see you at the altar tomorrow. ALTER. Which is actually a bit of clever wordplay from Alex, illustrating that the altar will alter Isla's character. It's actually very smart when you think about it.
I thought it was because they dress in a lot of dark clothes like goths, so they're like alternative at their wedding.
That's good. I should have used that. So we get to the real wedding.
Wait. Hold on. I need your comment on this.
Okay.
Because there's a moment before the wedding where Isla goes up to Astria and is like, so what's a Nightshade wedding usually like? What does it include? And this is when the wedding is like tomorrow. And she has no idea what it's gonna entail. And I just thought that you, a recently wedded individual, would have some comment on the work that goes into setting up a wedding, let alone a freaking royal wedding.
Yeah, I did not have a royal wedding, but I was at least like violently worried about everything and or preparing for it T-minus 1.5 years from the ceremony. So like, yeah, none of this would have, I would not be like, hey, what goes into a wedding the day before? No, that's like a stereotypical man thing, right? Like that's what you would expect. Like, I don't know, I'm just going to the Loot Alley brothels for my bachelor party. I don't know.
Astria has some very helpful information, though, for Isla, thankfully. There's a ceremony, she says, and some sort of hand ritual. Then necklaces are presented, as is custom. You already have yours, of course, she adds.
You harlot.
The end. The end. That's what goes into a wedding.
Yay!
Some sort of ceremony.
So we have some sort of ceremony. We're actually told that a Nightshade ruler has never taken a wife before, which is really weird to me, but whatever. I guess it's like Bizarro World. Cool. Before the ceremony, Grim gifts her this greenhouse that he built for her. This is a setting for a couple scenes, but I don't think it does anything like plant-wise. It's just there.
No, it gets destroyed at the end. Spoiler.
Oh, wow. The ceremony is this big to-do. Everyone is invited except for Poppy and Tara. So I ask you, dear club members, not Jay, because Jay knows this. I ask you, dear friends, who officiates the ceremony? There are so many great choices. There's Rin, the de facto leader of Wildling, perhaps Astria, or some other like Wildling that we've learned to know and love. Maybe there's a surprise guest from Lightlark who has learned to put aside their differences.
Deadass, I don't remember. Is it the snake lady?
It's Ida, the creepy cultist who talked to Isla for 5 minutes before telling her to fuck off. Every little girl's dream. Every little girl sits here and like, I want to marry a creepy pervert who married me in secret earlier and erased my memories. And I want the officiant, when I finally have my memories, to be a creepy blood purist cultist who wants to use me for the prophecy.
And who's known for carrying around a book made of skin and blood. Which we can only assume is the Bible that they use.
Right. Awesome. It's a wedding scene. You've seen it before.
It's like if your wedding was officiated by that creepy guy from the third Lord of the Rings movie who stands outside Mordor and tells everybody they can't come in, and he has like weird like slits in his upper lip so you can see his teeth like through his skin, and he like jerks his head back and forth. It's like if that guy was like, "Till death do you part." Like
it plays out like you think it would. It's a romantic-y wedding scene. They dance. Grim gets a necklace of his own. Grim talks about Isla's murder sprees taming the beast within. which, okay, it's still just for show because Isla doesn't want Grimm in her chambers that night. Dun dun dun. The after party of the wedding is ruined when it's revealed that a Nightshade graveyard has been desecrated. Like, all the graves were destroyed and the bodies were exhumed. And then Isla goes to investigate, and there's a rattlesnake slithering into the dirt. Dun dun dun! Oh my god, it's a snake! She's got to follow it, I guess, but she doesn't.
She doesn't. Instead, she decides that Tara and Poppy are culpable. They're like, no, we weren't. And she's like, yes, you were. And then she puts them in prison.
Right. And Grimm's like, are you sure, babe? But like, he just doggedly obeys the order. And then even Ren's not cool with it. Like, again, I don't understand why Ren and Grimm aren't cool with... I know why in twist reasons, but in logic reasons, Tara tried to kill Isla. Tara and Poppy abused Isla for their entire lives. Like, I don't get it.
It doesn't make sense. It just flatly doesn't. There's no explaining it.
So, but they're in prison now, so that's cool. Isla goes to the blacksmith to ask for a device that can help track something, is what she calls it. The blacksmith is just like, yeah, there's a thing marked with the blood of a ruler with a tracking flare, but it's lost, LOL. Your only hope is using Skyers. And then Isla's like, Skyers? I know what that is because I conveniently learned about it 2 chapters ago.
Skyer, I hardly know her. Just kidding. Let me go talk to Aurora about this.
Right. So Skyers, we learn a little bit more about them because the blacksmith knows more about them. They are ancient magic that was ancient even in the other world. So the blacksmith doesn't really know anything about it. He just knows that they're a thing. So she goes to ask Aurora more about the Skyers and whether, like, she'll teach Isla. And Aurora's just like, yeah, sure, I want redemption, so I'll tell you all about them. And then Isla moves on from there. Isla's not like, wow, I have feelings about the fact that you acknowledge that you did something wrong. This either awakens an old love in me and or it makes me angry that it took you dying for us to reach resolution.
Yeah, you would think that word redemption would awaken some feelings at the very least that she would acknowledge in her internal dialogue, even if she doesn't act upon them since there's more pressing shit to do.
Right.
But no.
Totally
uncommented upon.
Right. This stops as abruptly as you're probably thinking, and then Isla goes to the bar with Saoirse, only to find that her drink has been spiked, and Saoirse strikes back. She wakes up on this tiny island in the middle of a river, in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by Saoirse and the unnamed little friends that they were hanging out with in the bar. These guys are all prophet followers, but I guess they're more intense about it than Ida is. They're like, please kill us, Isla. We want to be reborn into your new world order. And basically force her to kill them. It's really weird and out of nowhere and doesn't make any sense.
It's very weird. They kill themselves in front of her, all of them.
Right. Her shadow comes alive and like picks up a sword and kills more people. Again, this comes out of nowhere and it will never really go anywhere. So that's that, I guess. I just had to ask. I do have to ask because I thought about this. This is something I might have forgiven in a different book, but since there's so much stuff left unturned, I'm kind of focused on it. What does this change about Isla's feelings about her wedding that this has happened to her? Because I feel like if the Pope of the religion that officiated my wedding tried to kill me and made me kill him, that would make me feel certain things or like have thoughts that I think about. But alas.
I'll leave that question to the wedded folks in the audience. That isn't stirring anything in me personally, but I imagine it would be complicated.
If the Pope of veganism,
science,
if the science Pope, which is like
Soyina,
if Soyina was part of a suicide cult, would that not change your feelings? Like, you don't have to be married to like have these thoughts.
Yeah, I guess it'd be kind of weird.
Okay. So Isla's freaked out. She goes to the blacksmith and she's like, get these gauntlets off of me. The blacksmith says something really vague, like, you've never been powerless in your life, my dear. which made me think that the gauntlets were a placebo, but they're not. I don't know why he said that. I don't know what that
I don't know why he
means.
said that either, because I was also waiting for later in the book for her to try to use them again and them not work. And
Right.
then it would turn out they were a placebo. But no,
Right.
no, they just, they did work.
We'll learn that she can overpower them, and we've already learned that she can because of the shadow thing that killed the cultists. But, like, yeah, I don't know why he said that. So she's getting used to her powers again. There's this funny thing where she sneezes and then, like, flowers come out. And she ends up in a library looking for stuff about the
I
Skyers.
hated that.
You hated that?
I hated that when she sneezed and flowers came out and it was like, look, this book can be funny and the magic can be silly. It's like, no, you haven't earned that. You haven't earned that at all. Nothing like that has ever happened.
That's fair.
You can't just like pretend that this is like a Avatar The Last Airbender kind of world where like your magic can go wrong in like humorous ways.
Right.
Like, this is way too late for that.
Yeah, I guess I didn't have the same reaction that you did, but I 100% understand the sentiment. Astria's in this library that Isla happens to be looking at Skyer stuff at, and then she reveals a lot of people write AO3 erotica about Grimm, which is really cool, really great detail to learn. She never finds any, like, we never read any, but, like, it's funny that we know that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's like a nod to fans of the book. Like, I see you.
Right. I guess that's what that's for. I actually have never even looked into Lightlark fanfiction, but if you're out there, find something better to write fanfiction for. I don't know what to tell you. Please
Link your favorite Lightlark fanfictions in the comments of this video.
Actually, yeah, do that.
Serious request from me. I'm curious.
Genuine. So we learned that Isla's father was immune to the curses, which I don't think will ever matter too much either, but he also likes maps and exploration and shit like that. We have not been hinted at this before. The concept of exploration, like nautical swashbuckling exploration, is foreign, is extra dimensional to everything that we have in the Lightlark trilogy thus far. Like, what are you talking about?
The world is charted already.
Right.
Like, what are you exploring? Plus, we know this world's artificial. It was made by a person.
Right. So who
like,
cares?
Don't they know?
Right. I don't know. But Astria's just like, oh yeah, it's all over the Wildling Village castle here in Nightbane. You can go look at it. No one lives in this holdfast. Okay, so like, this feudal society doesn't have like someone occupying the land. Whatever. Okay.
Not even a caretaker, I guess.
Right. So Isla uses this as an excuse to check up on her people and learn that Poppy and Tara were well liked, and everyone's not happy that they got arrested. Which, again, don't know why, but okay, I won't rehash it. She walks up to her old father's bedroom, which is exactly as he left it, finds it completely untouched, finds a bunch of maps, and then one of them has an island that she's never seen before. And that island's name... Jay, that island's name is...
I'm gonna hang up the call right now. I swear to God, I'm gonna hang up the call.
It's Isla Island. Island. So something happens here that I think is very interesting, Jay. Isla confirms to us that her name means island. So I did a little bit of research on Wiktionary, and what this does is confirm that they are speaking His Majesty Felipe Sexto Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Canonically, on Lightlark, they speak Spanish, which I just think is very funny to imagine. I don't know what this says or what this means, but like,
mm-hmm.
And I never thought that this would come up. Like, it honestly destroys Isla's name a lot more than it already was to explicitly acknowledge it, because like, I know someone's going to get mad at me eventually for not pronouncing it Isla or whatever, like the canonical pronunciation of it is. I say Isla on purpose to highlight how ridiculous it is that her name is Island Crown. So like, but it's okay because they're speaking Spanish.
Like, so does like the hypothetical translator then translate her last name, or is her last name inexplicably in English?
Right. It's not Corona.
What about characters like Ren? Is their name actually whatever it is in Spanish, but then they choose to translate that, and they chose not to translate Isla because it would be familiar to the average reader? Like, these are things that Aster definitely did not think about, not even once. But it does raise these questions if you really examine it.
Right. So This isn't important, but she also finds a journal, and it has like her father's racist beliefs about wildlings spelled out in them, presumably from before he met Isla's mom, I hope. Isla just rolls her eyes and she's like, I'm glad my dad's not racist anymore because he's dead. It's like, so Isla takes her star stick and manages to teleport to Isla Island. It takes a couple tries, but somehow she's able to do it. It is this Arcadian wonderland full of fruits and animals, and Isla drops off baskets of fruits to Nightshade villages in need because she's just so thoughtful. Generous.
It's literally Eden. It's literally Eden.
I don't know. There's nothing there. Anyways, it's unpopulated, so she just runs around practicing her powers without having to worry about anything. This leads us into the next scene, which I like to call 1 million billion snakes and 1 million billion tornadoes. So after a really hard cut, Isla wakes up back in Nightshade to a million billion snakes slithering around in her castle, but it may or may not be real, kind of like a Rich Shapiro dream, where I don't know what I'm supposed to be getting from this, but it's kind of like not necessarily real. She runs out, and it turns out that there's 1 million billion tornadoes touching down, and it's spraying shade-made shards everywhere, just like lacerating people and nullifying their Nightshade powers or whatever. Then there's 1 million billion more storms for the next few days. And this is when Isla's like, okay, Aurora, it's Skyer tutorial time. So Skyers draw power from blood, and they only work when etched with Shade-Made as the implement.
Onto your skin.
Into your skin. It's a really intense process. It hurts to draw them both because it's like literally gouging your skin and because of like magical reasons. And if you get it wrong, the results can be like catastrophic. So Isla makes a Skyer that makes her powers more controllable by some means, but Aurora doesn't know any more Skyers than that. So there's yet another thing that she has to look for because what she has doesn't have all of the answers. So this is yet another baby step of there's always something else, but we have to keep going. We'd have to keep going. I'd actually want to see more of the Skyers tutorial because this would give us a chance to interact with Aurora some more, but this is just kind of told to us through like really high bird's eye view exposition.
Not only would it give us a chance to spend some more time with Aurora, but if you'll forgive me a spoiler, it would also give us a chance to maybe start to realize that Isla's not in contact with who she thinks she's in contact with. Maybe this individual doesn't know information that she should know, or vice versa. And maybe while Isla is having these intense emotional conversations with someone she thinks is her best friend, she later realizes that like she's been unloading a lot of sensitive information onto somebody who she definitely does not want to have that information. And that could be very tense.
Something. So, yeah, that doesn't happen though. Grim and Isla end up having this utterly pointless heart-to-heart where Grim starts dumping his ridiculous backstory on her. I think he's been doing this along, but this is around the point where it really started to get to me because it ramps up and does not stop for the rest of the book. So every time Isla says anything, Grim's like, oh, you had 2 guardians who betrayed you? Well, I had 1 million billion guardians, and my father kept killing them if I ever even smiled at them. Oh, you wish you had a family? Well, I had 1 million billion siblings, and I was supposed to be forced to murder them all, but then it turns out I was super special powerful, and my father just killed them all and made me watch, and he buried them to strengthen my islands. I will talk a lot about this later on, but he starts doing that a lot. I don't like it.
A lot of one-upmanship. Or 1 billion million upmanship in his case.
So, by cosmic coincidence, not even manipulation, not even like, gee, I wish there were some secret passageways like we got with Powerless, Grim is like, hey, let's go on vacation to this other palace I have as like our honeymoon. And Isla's secretly like, yes, this is just as I hoped. Aurora said that there was a castle that has a library with information about Skyers, and it's in this location. And she did this off screen, and we're just now learning about this, and it's just so weird. They have gross sex. I don't want to talk about it. Actually, no, wait, I do. Grimm has no refractory period. Did you notice that, Jay?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it more?
No, because right after there's this gross sex scene, let's call it 5 pages. They lay back next to each other, panting on the bed, and Isla's just like, "Do that again, Grimm." And Grimm's like, "Okay," and gets right back at it. So like, either I didn't read it that well, so I don't know if like he got himself done with, or like he just has like phenomenal endurance. Like I really want to think about the mechanics at play here.
Well, I don't. And I would rather talk about their romantic Christmas village honeymoon getaway that they have in the picturesque little gingerbread castle town underneath the Winter Palace, where everything is beautiful little ornaments and lights, and everyone is smiling in the shadow of these looming and spiked, but somehow perfectly picturesque mountains that frame the valley in which this village is located. And it's like the little toy village that they had on Lightlark in the first book, where there was exactly one person of every profession so that you could hit one shop after the other and experience the totality of like a little Ren Fair village. But this time it's Christmas themed.
The world is ending. There are storms full of monsters and shrapnel every day. This is Empress Teresa Goes to Paris levels of avoiding the plot at the worst possible fucking moment. Like, I know that the palace has Skyer's information in the library, but Isla will never care about this. We will never see Isla go out of her way to pursue that goal. She just dicks around with her husband, and the answers come to her. This palace is a childhood home of Grimm's, one that he remembers fondly. And this might be the only time in this entire book series that I've laughed with the book. There's this exchange where Grimm's like, "I was always the happiest here." And then Isla looks up at this like scary, depressing castle, and she's like, "Why?" And Grimm's just like, "Because my father was never at this castle." And I'm just like, that's funny.
Not only does Grimm like this palace because his dad isn't there, especially now that he's dead, he also likes that it has a cool hedge maze, at the center of which lies the cursed body of Cronan Malvir, entombed forever
in like a sarcophagus.
A cool grave.
Right?
Yeah, like an epic sarcophagus.
I was literally just picturing like a coffin like standing on its feet.
Standing?
Like, yeah, in the middle.
Like in Persona 3?
I don't know what Persona 3 is.
Just standing there?
Sure.
Oh my god. I was imagining one of those like night graves where they're like laying on it. You know, there's like a stone carving of them. But yours is funnier, so we'll go with that.
There's this ridiculous backstory to the maze where like people have died in it, and like I don't get it.
Allegedly, the maze prevents all magic usage, so you have to walk through it. Like you can't warp to the center. They obviously want to protect Cronan Malvir's grave for some reason, although they don't say that outright. And somewhere in all this, Isla does find the Cursed Book of Skyers in the library. So mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. "I've never loved anyone," Grimm said, and she turned sharply to face him. "Not until you." His face was clear, his eyes were earnest. It made her sad.
Me when I'm sad.
She had a reaction to this, right? "I started to believe I was incapable of it, of any of the feelings I sensed from others, of loving someone so much I would die for them without question." He leaned against the ledge again. "I would watch, sometimes in the villages, a family walking down the streets, smiling, a husband and wife with their arms linked. I thought it would be impossible to be that happy. I thought love was the greatest lie, the most outrageous fantasy." His eyes narrowed. I had never imagined myself happy. I didn't think I would ever deserve it, not after everything I had done." His body tensed, as if he had been snagged by a memory. "When I was young, we were trained to be ruthless, to have heart trained out of us. Isla's voice was barely a whisper as she settled beside him, staring out at the greenery.
How do you have the heart trained out of you?
She wondered if she should even ask. Grim raised a shoulder. You ensure a child is never loved. So I made allusions earlier to Grim kind of losing his personality, and it is worse here. It is unfathomably worse here. The whole sequence where there's not Skyer stuff happening, and like Isla goes to restaurants and chocolate shops and walks down the streets with him and goes clothes shopping. It's like Grim is Isla's little pet chihuahua that she puts in sweaters, and like she's like, oh, he's so cute. He's like, Grim's just sitting there twitching and annoyed, but it's just so adorable in like a cute, non-threatening kind of way.
It is weirdly watering him down when you put it that way. I had been feeling like something was really off with his character, but I wasn't able to put my finger on it until you described it like that. He really just like totally vacillates between the most evil murderer in the world / Ned, right, and the most evil murderer in the world / Pause.
The most little evil murderer in the world.
so evil. Like, I can't tell what the point is of that, other than like he just is serving whatever narrative role he needs to serve in that exact moment, right, like according to Aster's tastes. And then she's like, well, now he needs to be something else, so he's going to be something else. It's like, that's not really how it works.
Yeah, and there's like a huge amount of narrative weight placed off of him dressing in more casual clothes. Because apparently he's like always wearing like spiked armor and like all this crazy shit and capes. I don't know. This isn't important, but there's this part where they're having this cute little conversation, and Isla's like, I used to make dolls out of sticks, and I named my doll Stickman. And that has to be autobiographical on Alex's part, because that is the kind of nomenclature that we've come to expect from good old Lightlark. Mm-hmm.
It's just so literal.
So the thing about the Skyers book is they have weird library sex where they like crash into bookshelves and like knock everything over, and books are falling everywhere, and Isla throws up a shield so they don't get pelted with books and they continue to have sex. And I've gone on record saying I'm not a bibliophile, so it's not about like, oh, the precious books, but like that just doesn't sound sexy to me. I would not have a good time if I were being pelted by books.
Sounds quite distracting, in fact.
Right? So we know the Skyers instruction manual is here somewhere, because Isla asks Aurora what to look for, and Aurora says a book cursed closed. Isla wonders aloud how a book can be cursed, which is a phenomenally stupid question, because everything on this entire planet dimension can be cursed. What do you mean it's weird for a book to be cursed?
If there's an object in this world and it's not cursed, then it's part of a prophecy. In fact, it's critical to a prophecy.
And the prophecy usually is about a curse, so it doesn't work like that. But whatever. Isla goes to the library, and the one book she needs just so happens to be the only book still on the shelves after their gross library sex. So once again, the problem is moved one step away, but the solution is given to her right at hand by a comedy of errors. So, Jay, earlier I brought up the transitive property of Isla being immune to curses. And I want you to help me parse this out, because I think this might be something that I'm getting wrong. So, the book is cursed closed. First of all, can you define what that means to you? Just hearing that phrase, not even in relationship to Lightlark.
Okay, immediately I'm like, either it can't be opened, or opening it makes something bad happen.
Right. Cursed closed, to me, would be cursed, like locked, like you can't open it. If a book has something bad happen to you when you open it, it would have a curse placed upon it that activates when you open it. Like cursed closed, yeah. I don't know. So anyways,
I didn't do a good enough job of divorcing it from Lightlark in your question. I'm sorry. I tried, but I knew that I had to think about like what makes a little less sense, but like still kind of tracks. And that was why I included the second one.
Let's lay out the Markov chain here. The book is cursed. Alex, I keep doing this. Isla is not cursed. Isla has a flare that makes her immune from the curses. So she just opens the book normally. The act of her touching it makes the curse null and void. Is that really how this has always worked?
It seems like that's how it consistently works in this book.
Right. Because it can't be how this works, because this destroys the entire series. Like, this destroys the whole book. Like, there should have been like a scene in Lightlark or Nightbane where, I guess just Lightlark, where, I don't know, she can hold hands with Oro and he walks in the sunlight, or she touches Oro, she's hugging Oro, and then the sun starts to rise and then he bursts into flames. Like, this is like crazy. A vampire.
I feel like the reason that didn't happen is because in Lightlark, her Wildling and Nightshade powers were canceling each other out, right? Wasn't that like the big revelation at the end of that book, was that like now she's learned how to use both of them? Like they're unlocked and they're no longer holding each other in gridlock. So like maybe the flare is tied to her being able to consciously use her powers. And so since she couldn't do that, her curse-breaking flare didn't work.
Sure, you know what? I don't even care. There's some more honeymoon antics to go over. It's all completely superfluous. There's a couple things I think are funny. Grimm and Isla have like cutesy little callbacks to the chocolate feeding scene, which I thought was really gross in Lightlark.
Boo.
You liked it?
No, I didn't like it. I didn't like that it was a callback, because it was a callback to nothing.
A callback not to nothing, Jay. A callback to an enormous plot hole. Because at the time that chocolates were being fed, Isla was trying to hide the fact that she can't eat human food. So that's just it. Now it's a funny thing that they wink to each other about, like, look how far we've come. Also,
but like, why are they winking to each other? Because they haven't come anywhere, and that moment wasn't funny or charming the first time. It was just like kind of a normal, boring moment.
Right. I don't know, but they also go to one of the restaurants and they sit down, and we make sure that we learn that Grimm doesn't like get mad at waitstaff when they get the order wrong. Like, but they don't specify the food that Grimm gets. Like, we're not told what he's eating. We're told that it's good and that Isla wants some, but it's always called the food. We know what he ordered. He ordered grilled meat, but we don't know.
Delicious. My favorite.
We don't know what he got. He got the texture missing block from Gary's mod when you don't have CS:GO mounted. So there's a snowball fight too. It goes on for 1,000,000 years. I don't think any of it matters. Does any of it matter, Jay?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't even remember the snowball fight. I probably skimmed right over it.
So one day Isla wakes up and she realizes that, oh wait, bones are more powerful than blood, and she knows where she can find infinitely powerful bones. Sick. That's what she calls it. Infinitely powerful bones. I was like, oh my god, I'll show your mom. So she goes into the maze alone without Grimm and immediately gets attacked by this demon pig thing. It has like tusks and it's like a little fat thing. I don't know what you were picturing, Jay. It's like a leftover from the storm.
I was picturing, won't Andrew be delighted that this is technically a creature?
It is technically a creature. It has
It's
legs.
not exactly a spider made out of grass or whatever, but
right.
God dang it, it is a creature.
It is a creature, and never let it be said that there aren't creatures in this book. So pay attention here, Jay and club members. So Isla opens the book again, does nothing differently than the first time she did this, and this time a demon comes out of the book, like a literal, actual horned man from hell, who, like, attacks the demon pig. Apparently he and the demon pig aren't on the same side, so, like, they fight each other. Isla runs away, gets lost in the maze while we just hear squealing and demon roaring. again,
There's enemy factions in
Right.
Lightlark and its sequels. I've always appreciated that. Not enough of our books have multiple enemy factions that are also enemies of each other.
The pigs and the demons. So again, we're in a situation where Isla's stuck or is facing some challenge, and then she miraculously notices that the hedges are frozen. So she just climbs on top of the hedges and cheats and jumps across to the center of the base.
A thing which no one else has ever noticed.
What? So the demon catches up with her, and then it starts roaring, and then Grimm shows up, and he starts roaring back at the demon. Do
you get it? It's because he's also a demon. Like, she's always calling him.
What is he actually doing in the scene? Is he like going roar? It's so bad. Also the coffin opens up with her blood. Like, she pricks her hand and touches it, and then that magically opens the door. But the coffin is empty, just like the Romans saw after the crucifixion. And Isla gets like knocked out somehow by the fight with the demon, or like passes out from, I don't know, plot convenience disease.
Passes out because that's one of the 3 ways that Alex Astor knows how to end a chapter. It's either Marvel one-liner, Isla gets knocked out, or somebody has out of nowhere revelation. I think
Secret fourth one, she just leaves because the character she was talking to told her to leave.
That's right. The scene just ends because she exits and the book has to load for a second, and that's the new chapter beginning. It's like a loading screen.
So I haven't mentioned this before because who gives a shit, but she's been practicing Skyers on herself and like hiding them with illusory magic from Grimm. And because she was knocked out, Grimm notices the Skyers, and he's like, "You shouldn't do that. Skyers are bad and dangerous." But then Grimm's like, "Hey, we should have kids about this," which does kind of make sense in a way, because that would transfer the Nexus curse onto the child. But the only problem is they don't have 9 months to sit around and wait.
That's the only problem with that plan. I agree.
Right,
No other problems.
Which also confirms that curses begin at birth and not conception. So that's good to know.
That is really helpful information.
And to that point, I'm not an antinatalist or anything, but I think having children as a means of passing on your problems to someone else is not a good reason to have a child. Just a little bit problematic, but it gets dropped pretty quickly.
Also logistically confusing a little, because it's like, do you really want to transfer all of your problems onto one of the most vulnerable things to exist? Right. A human child that needs constantly to be monitored? Is that really the solution to this?
Is that what we're doing here? I guess it is.
It also makes me ask, like, the thing about the rulers dying and then like all of their subjects dying, has that ever been like brought up in the same sentence as like kids? Because surely in this like pseudo medievalish world, there must be like a lot of like childhood deaths.
Other than that, it transfers. Well, no, because they have magical healing elixir. I don't think there's a lot of childhood deaths.
I guess that's probably true.
Legitimately, I don't think there would be.
But it is weird that it's never happened in the history of the world that the curse got passed on to the next in line, and then they died as a child, and it killed everybody. Like, never once has that happened. Once. I mean, evidently not, but seems unlikely.
Medical technology is staggering with healing elixir made out of the equivalent of like crack. Yeah, because it's supposed to be addictive in one form, but in another form, it's like the best healing elixir in the world. So
yeah. Oh, I think it's opium, right? Because it's like makes you blissful.
Yeah, sure, whatever. I don't care. The return of the augur follows this scene. So everything I'm about to say, just append the word apparently to it, because so much of this detail feels like it's coming out of nowhere, but I'm willing to bet that like I glossed over it somewhere, or it was mentioned once 2 books ago and we're expected to remember it. So Isla goes to the augur, because the augur has the prophet's blood and his skull just like lying around. There are pages of the prophet's book, the skin Bible that we were making jokes about earlier, that have been lost. And as you recall, they're written in his blood. So with his skin and his blood, Isla can make a tracking Skyer to show her where the missing pages are. So he just hands her a tooth and tells her to go have fun and watch out for the traitor because, ooh, it's not Tara or Poppy. And that's the scene.
It's so exhausting.
Yeah. So, and speaking of Tara and Poppy, another graveyard has been ransacked while they're in prison. So this prompts her, for some reason, to go talk to Tara and Poppy, but not to do anything with them. They're just like, hey, we're back. We didn't kill your parents again. And then Isla's like, I still don't believe you. Bye. So Isla just portals back to Isla Island. She plays around a little bit more on the island. She practices some Skyers. They give her seizures and cause her like immense physical pain. It's very, very gruesome to go through, but she just can't seem to get this Skyer right for whatever reason. And again, I would have loved more detail here. Is it like a really complicated rune? Is it like in Chinese characters, how like the stroke order matters and a good eye can tell when you use the wrong stroke order, even if the shape is correct? Like what's happening? How is she screwing it up? What is she trying to create?
They should ask Grimm. I bet he knows a lot about stroke order. Ayo.
Ayo.
Yeah, wait, no, that is a good question, because we never get any sign of what they look like, right? Like if they're
symbols.
more runic or if they're more something else.
They're symbols, that's all we know. So
it's like another thing, like with the food, where it's like the most general thing in the
Right.
world, or like them refusing to call their powers magic and always just calling it power. And it's like, why is it the most general word possible every single time? Like, why can we not be a little bit more specific about what we're working with here? It really makes the world feel so completely intangible.
Right. Yeah, intangible is the only way you can put it, because I literally cannot feel this world in my mind palace. Isla goes back to Nightshade after this, and she finds out that there's been an attack on some random village. Isla wonders aloud, why would anyone want to attack Nightshade? Which is
I wonder.
Which is a hilarious fucking question to ask. Maybe weeks after your husband launches a full-on invasion. So it's this new group of people called anyone that Grimm wantonly attacked. Like,
which includes every race of people.
Every
single one except his own. So, like, the number of people that wouldn't want to invade is probably completely outnumbered by the number of people on the planet that would.
Right.
Like, the people that would not have an interest in invading is the minority.
Right. So it's like, what do you mean, Isla? Were you not around 2 weeks ago?
A war that she orchestrated in part.
Right. So Astria comes up and she's like, hey, the attack was actually from one person. One wildling person. A wildling woman that comes out of the ground who matches Isla's description. And what's more, she's done this before. Dun dun dun. I was super excited for this, Jay. I was like, whoa, Isla's having like this Sonic the Werehog kind of mode.
Yeah.
Where she like turns into
I thought there was
beast
like a
mode.
Jekyll and Hyde thing happening.
Right. I was like, this is cool. And this plays right into the twist that we're seeing coming about like the traitor being Isla herself. That like, I'm like, this is going to be fun. You know, I saw this coming, but I'll enjoy watching this play out. And I'm like, this finally, I think we're going to stick the landing, have some like heart-to-hearts, and go home with a smile on our face. But the scene can't develop much because we're interrupted by a hostile army of Nightshades, like people in nondescript Nightshade armor. We think it's a coup at first, but we can't investigate that for too long because branches burst from the ground and pull Isla into the earth. Which leads us into our next section. Lark Crown is back, baby! Let's go! Meow, meow, meow. So, you must have been wondering, my dear club members, who has been lurking in the shadows? Who the prophesized traitor will turn up to be? The secret Judas haunting every interaction with anyone this whole book. It could be Ren. It could be Poppy or Tara. It could be Isla herself. But no.
It could be somebody else doing a racist cosplay. I mean, if Isla can do it, why can't the rest of them?
It could be anyone. But Jay, do you want to tell us who the traitor is?
The traitor is Lark Crown.
Lark Crown.
A person who can't be a traitor because she was never on their side in the first place. In fact, she's been presumed dead, which is technically, effectively true. She's been frozen in ice beneath Moon Isle this whole time. That's right, isn't it?
She beneath some isle. I don't care which isle. Some under the earth somewhere. I think she was in Nightshade. I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Isla. So this isn't Isla's mom. This isn't Isla's grandma. This is Isla's ancestor from thousands and thousands of years ago, whom we've only heard about in passing. Why the fuck is she here?
And why is she being called a traitor?
Right.
Traitor, I literally don't know her. Are you kidding me?
That's good. That's really good.
This is a character with no significance to anybody in this story.
No.
This is someone we've seen in like a fancy painting once.
This is like what this is like if I'm walking down the street and I get mugged by George Washington. Like, it means nothing and it's stupid. Like, so Lark Crown is back. Lark Crown was never there, but she's back now, and she has a what did you call it in Lightlark? Sonically horrible, sonically poisonous.
Yeah,
because you have
sonically
to say Lark
toxic or something.
Lark Herc Crown, like,
yeah.
Or you can't say Lark Crown because you can't say Lark Crown. It's awful. So she's thousands of years old.
It's it's halting.
It's halting. She lives in these, like, the series of caves illuminated by subterranean fireflies, whatever, and she's this crazy evil necromancer lady who has no blood, so you can just dismember her and she'll be fine later. I guess she, like, puts it back or it reforms or something. I don't understand that part. But she's like, I'm going to kill everybody so I can make this world anew, and I've already done it once before. And it's just like, what do you mean? So apparently, she was buried by Cronon Malver thousands of years ago, but never actually died, like Jay alluded to. She wants the heart of Lightlark, which is this MacGuffin from the first book that wasn't even mentioned in Nightbane. And
not at all.
And I don't remember anything about it, so I guess it's just like a blob, like a glowing blob of power that you can just grab. The
only thing I remember about it is that they go looking for it. Her and Oro go looking for it on one of their dates.
Right.
And they look in like those like trees that are called like coffiners, and then they look in purse plants, and they have to search every single plant by like tickling it, and it pops open. And they're like, not this one. Not this one. Could it be the next one? Oh, it wasn't.
So I think Lark was buried under Nightshade, because what happened is we have Lightlark, which has the heart of Lightlark buried under it, and that gives the power. But Nightshade, meanwhile, had bodies buried under it, like the children of Cronon or whatever. And eventually, I guess, Cronon just got jealous of Lark and buried her as the battery of Nightshade? ?
Something love triangle involving Horace Ray.
Horace Ray is mentioned but doesn't do anything. Oh, he's not there, and he's not. Nothing's attributed to him, so he's just also around. I guess like Oro is. So
pretty much.
That's accurate. So Cronon's also alive, but he later escaped back to the other world, so we don't really have to worry about him. I don't really know why he does that. I guess just because Alex didn't want to describe more ancient people. Doesn't matter. So now Lark has escaped somehow from her prison, and she wants to kill Grim and Oro to make a new world, because she never really liked this one in the first place, I guess. She just wants a new world now.
I swear it has something to do with the love triangle with her, Cronan, and Horace Ray. And something about she was vying for their hearts, they were vying for hers. Something that in some way mimics what Isla's got going with Grim and Oro. It didn't work out, and Lark is now bitter that all that happened in this world that they made together, and so now she wants to tank this one and just start over by herself. Because she's a girl boss.
because she's a girl boss. So to accomplish this goal, Lark has this army of zombies that she just has been reanimating bodies from graveyards. That's why we'd had all these like defiled graves and whatever. And they can just rise out of the ground whenever they want to, which is mechanically indistinguishable from Drex. So
yeah.
Why do we have zombies now? I think the book talk way of putting it is like, that wasn't on my bingo card for book 3.
Well, it's because, and this is becoming my refrain of the episode, I'm sorry, but it's because the only way to escalate is to have more of what you already have.
Right.
And Drex were able to pop out of the ground anywhere at the behest of a nebulous evil force and basically invincible. The zombies have all of those properties, but are reskinned as kind of a spooky version instead of a scaly version.
Right.
That's all. It's literally just more of the same thing.
Right. And I really should have seen this coming. I'm kicking myself, actually, for not seeing zombies, literal, actual zombies come up in this book. Because we have been conflating life and death, and Isla can create life from death so many times. I should have called it earlier, so I'm genuinely like upset about this development. I don't like that there are zombies in this story. So
I don't either.
Lark says something that I think is kind of funny to Isla. She's like, "You're a traitor everywhere, Isla. You're an outsider. You're just like me." And Isla gasps, and she's like, "How did you know that?" When that's like, it's an older than dirt villain tactic and like the easiest to read on someone like Isla. Just nothing's working here. She's like trying to Lark's trying to get her like to join her in like a Darth Vader way. I don't understand why or what the point is, but Isla refuses to join Lark. She's like, nope. And she gets to say, go away now. She tunnels back up to the surface and she starts using her awesome powers to attack the zombies, and more Nightshades come to fight the zombies, but the zombies are just too powerful because they're so cool and awesome. And then she uses Oro's flames. Like, he specifically has like Azula blue flames, which I think is kind of cool. That like, that's a cool little nod to Oro. I don't know. Anyways, halfway through the battle, just like how Drex did, the zombies disappear back into the earth, and everything's okay now. So, yay.
Yay.
Isla gets teleported to the blacksmith suddenly, and he's like, hey, listen, I don't want to be a zombie, so please just go ahead and kill me. Let's get this over with. And Isla's like, okay, sure, but how did you teleport me here? And he's just like, I made the star stick, which explains nothing. So he made the star stick for her dad or whatever. I don't remember.
Well, it's like how Henry Ford in real life could run as fast as a car, and it's he got that power from inventing the car.
From inventing the car, right? As
like once he had completed it, yeah, he adopted its properties.
So she kills him, and as he's dying, she's like, hey, wait, I never asked your name. And while he's choking out on his own blood, he's like, I don't remember. Oh, wait, I do. My name is Ferrar. Which, props to her for using the most obvious Latin word rather than the most obvious Spanish word. You know? Ferrum, iron. It's not Pharaoh in Spanish. I looked it up. It's hierro or hierro in Lightlark in Spanish. In Spanish. So
oh boy. She's not learning. Improvement. It's not improvement, but it is variety. So and the novelty can feel good.
This is actually really funny, and it makes me think I'm insane. Listen to this. So I reread the blacksmith's introduction because I was like, he tried to kill and eat her earlier. Like, why are they friends now? And I didn't get any answers for that. But what I did get is this really interesting detail where he has a name, or at least he has like a title given to him other than the blacksmith. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jay?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm so interested.
He is called Baron. never a Baron, never the Baron, always capital B Baron. So Grimm is like, unhand her, comma, capital B Baron. And then in narration, Isla's like, the blacksmith M dash Baron. So it is kind of ambiguous whether he is the Baron of something or if his name is just Baron. But what's going on?
Holy shit.
Right? So
that's really bad. That's like really, really bad. I mean, I know we've made jokes before, and like only half jokes really, like about whether or not an editor team is on this at all. But like, really?
I'm not
Nobody
kidding.
caught that an entire character's name changed?
So either Alex forgot or Isla forgot, because we definitely forgot. I don't know if anyone else has caught this. I haven't listened to too much other Skyshade videos yet. So isn't that nuts? And to be fair, it could be the medieval title, but I don't think it is because there was never a direct or indirect article used. It was just Baron. So Isla tells Poppy and Tara and Rin to do a third Empress Teresa exodus to get the wildlings back to the wildling newlands from whence they came. Like, I don't understand. But she gives Rin the star stick to help, like, the movement process. So I guess this isn't as bad as, like, just marching over a land bridge or anything. Isla randomly remembers one throwaway line from Grimm about how he was the barrier between Lightlark and a greater darkness, which I always kind of assumed was about the Drex. And I think it was intended to have been about the Drex and Cronin, but apparently now this means that Grimm and Oro have always known that Lark was alive. Sure, I don't even care.
It's hard to care knowing that it won't matter by the next book.
Right.
Like, there's a 75 to 80% chance relative to each individual plot point that this book introduces that it will just be discarded for the next one. So you're totally not rewarded for remembering anything like that.
Nothing. You're punished. You are punished for remembering things in this book. Like, it hurts you. It's like gaslighting. I don't know. So
it is gaslighting.
So, by the way, this also destroys the book. Like metaphorically, not like the skin book or anything like that. Because Lark Crown is still alive, which means that the Nexus curse was never actually passed down to Isla, and probably also never passed down from Cronin to Grimm. We know Horace Ray is dead, so Oro's still there, but like, Wildling has never once been in any danger, and nothing that Isla did in the Centennial matters.
Like, that didn't matter. They would still have been affected by the heart-eating bit of the curse, but like, in terms of their lives being in eternal peril, that hasn't been true.
They could have killed Isla, broken the curse by that means, and all of the wildlings would have been freed, and they would still be alive. So reader, unambiguously, irrefutably, not one sentence of Lightlark matters. Not one paragraph of that stupid book actually matters. It was all for nothing. So Isla says to Grimm, stay here and defend Nightshade. I'm gonna go figure out how to send Lark through the portal and trap her in the other world. So Isla goes to Sun Isle for some fucking reason. I guess because the tooth that the Augur, or the Augur used or gave her, the tooth was used for like tracking the rest of the pages or whatever. And apparently the pages that she wants are behind this big gate in Sun Isle that she can't fly over, she can't climb over. I don't give a shit anymore. It's magic. Who cares? Oro shows up and attacks her, doing the same mistaken identity song and dance that we were just doing with Astria earlier, because apparently Lark has already wiped out the Sunling Coast Guard, which geographically is very weird, but that's intentional. More on that later. Continuing this phenomenon of everything Isla wants to do is just handed to her. Or it was like, good thing I showed up, otherwise you wouldn't be able to get in here because only my blood can
open this gate. Because the key is me.
The key is me.
It's literally like What the was that guy in Nova's playlist that was the only reason they could get into that one god city where you had to be of a certain god race to get in?
He was the cowboy.
He was the cowboy.
Yeah, it was Fletcher.
Yeah.
Fletcher, the magical treasure hunting cowboy. We have this downright bizarre, like, dream sequence dream logic sequence, I should say, through a desert where it's so hot that Isla has to, like, take off most of her clothes and her daggers, and there's hallucinogenic sandstorms, like a Rich Shapiro's dream come true. You just, like, breathe in the air and it, like, causes you to, like, trip.
It's raining acid! Oh my god, all my Christmases have come at once. And Oro does mention that, like, other members of his family have had to go through this desert before for various training purposes, and they have died. So, like, royalty has died. I guess not Nexus bearing loyalty, but people have died doing this.
Right.
And they're worried about, like, legitimately he and Isla are worried about not making it to the end of this.
We're just biting our nails, waiting to see what might happen to our intrepid heroes. There's this fraught romantic tension happening between Oro and Isla, but I just cannot be bothered to care. I know I'm Team Oro. I'm still Team Oro just because I like consent, but it's so fatiguing to have to get to this point to where all of my goodwill has puddled at my feet. Like, I have nothing left for this.
Like I said, the romance feels so token. It's, like, really hard to care. It's like just being overwhelmed by all the other stuff for one thing.
Yeah, really, Oro. It's not you. It's me. I've had a long day. I have a headache. Maybe tomorrow. Sorry, babe. But whatever. There's this protracted sex dream about Oro, which is so freaking weird. It's like several pages of Isla saying, hey, you know that traumatic thing you can do where you turn anything you touch into gold? Turn my dress into gold and then melt it off me while I use starling shields to shield myself and then have sex with me. Apparently this is like a flashback to the night before the big battle. I don't remember if this was like something that happened in text in Nightbane. Okay. So
no, it wasn't.
So cool. They finally reach the end of the mystery dungeon. The intense, fraught journey. And they find this palace carved into a cliff. There's an eternal flame on top of the mountain, which I thought would be important because, like, they were burning corpses earlier to prevent them from being, like, reconstituted by Lark. So it's like, oh, we will use the power of the eternal flame to fight the zombies. We don't. The flame never comes back, so forget I even told you about it. But I bet you it's going to come back in book 5. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah, they seem to skip one. But, like, what is the point of having an eternal flame when Lightlark already has, like, a heart that, like, powers it? Does
specialized
Sun
power
need it? Okay, whatever. It's stupid of me to even ask.
Maybe Skyling has an eternal storm and Starling has an eternal star. I don't know. That's a good question. So Moonling has an eternal moon. So okay, so page T-1. Oro says, this palace carved into the side of a cliff is a tomb. And then the next page, they walk in and there's a stinger sentence in its own line that says, it was a tomb. As if Isla is shocked to learn this. Like, I didn't know you were taking me to a tomb. You only told me 1 minute ago.
This is no tomb. It's a tomb.
Right. It's not a tomb. It's a tomb. So inside this tomb, which is a tomb, there's the body of Horace Ray. So Horace Ray confirmed dead. His body is like perfectly preserved, and he has in his hands the finger of a god. And they do this Indiana Jones thing where they like grab it, and then Horace Ray's body turns to dust. So if he wasn't dead before, he's dead now. They just sit there while a storm rages through.
Yeah, and then in the middle of the night, Isla runs off.
And she just uses her storm ring.
She's like hoping that Oro won't be mad and that he won't be able to catch up with her.
Right when she gets to the gate, her daggers start flying at her, the ones that she was shedding off as she was marching. Oro's caught up with her and realized that he's been betrayed, and he's like trying to kill her. Like, this is like, I had some stirring of a long dead interest at this point, where I was like, oh, this has emotions attached to it. This could be interesting, but it's too late. It's too late for me. Right when I was about to start caring that Oro goes to the ocean to look at it because the green reminds him of Isla's eyes, their fight is interrupted by zombies. Ooh, the second we have any kind of emotional stuff. So they have to work together. Yay! So the zombies are very diverse now. There's skylings, and then there's sunlings. There's more zombies. About all the islands are encompassed in this army now. So they're super screwed. Isla touches her necklace and summons Grimm, and she's like, boys, it's time to assemble. So Grimm and Oro have to put aside their differences and fight together for the woman they love, and it's so totally cool.
Has that same exact action figures feeling that Nova's playlist had.
This is Nova's playlist.
Yeah, this
book is just Nova's playlist. So they just leave the zombie army there. Like, I don't know why they don't try to engage with the army. I guess because they're 3 people, but they teleport over to Oro's Avengers group of friends that didn't do anything in Nightbane, even though we got like their entire backstories. India the Liberty Taker is there. And again, this is kind of like Azul. She's Sans Undertale at the end of the Genocide arc, like really pissed off at Isla and wary of her intentions, which I did like. I liked how this person who is kind of like a friend to Isla now hates her justifiably for betraying their entire world.
It's nice that her actions had consequences, that there was like an emotional arc there.
Right, the one time. Isla's plan is to lure Lark with the heart of the island and trap her in the other world. To do this, she needs Cronin's sword, like the direct controlling one, which Grimm's gotten rid of because Isla made him do that in the first page so that he wouldn't go back and like try to open up the portal again. So Isla's just like, go get it back. And he does, but it's gone. Oh no, the dragon is gone. The bigger dragon, not Wraith, but like the dragon that was guarding the thing. And presumably the categorically undodgeable arrow trap is also gone. Then they go to Zed.
And I guess the best thief in the world, whatever her name was, since she still doesn't have one, doesn't care that her sword is gone and her treasure trove is going unguarded.
Well, maybe the best thief in the world, who's unnamed and will never be named, took the sword out for safekeeping, because they go to Zed, who's still in prison, the one who shot Isla earlier at the first storm. And apparently Zed is really good at doxing people, or like a really good thief. I don't understand like why he specifically has the skill set, but they're like, hey, find the greatest thief of all time and find the sword for me. And Zed's like, I can do this no problem, and I'm not even shackled. I could leave whenever I wanted to, but Oro looked like he was pretty pissed off, so I decided to lay low for a while. So that's that. That's going to happen off screen.
Guess he's just like a little Hermes character that
I guess
is like a little trickster.
Little trickster man. They go to Sky Isle then to see Rimlar. And I offer you and I both Absolution, Jay, because to prepare for this episode, I've already been talking about it already. My friend Anna archived me a couple EPUBs, and I had been control F'ing some of these concepts and names to see where they were introduced. And I would like to trivia question you, Jay. How many times is the word Rimlar attested in the first book?
Oh, please let the answer be 0. Please let it be 0. I'll feel so good if it's 0.
It is the only answer funnier than 0. 1.
Oro.
So here's what happens. Okay. Here's what happens. So what I had to do was I had to control F hive, because Rimlar like is the shepherd of this hive of insect creatures who are not the Vinderlings. So I don't know if Vinderlings have wings or not like we thought they did. I don't care. Anyways, he has like insects that in like this place called the Hive. So I looked for the Hive, and it was always, what did they always call him? They always called him like the Winged Man, or like some nickname. in the scene that he's introduced. So they need some piece of information from him. There's a brief fight scene. They go back and forth. They get the information or they don't. It literally doesn't matter. And then they leave. Later, considerably later, the sentence is like, Rimlar had said that the heart of the island was in this cave. There is nothing to point us from... Oh, no, it was Rimlar said the heart of the island is where light meets dark. So there's no binding between the name Rimlar and the concept of the steward of the caves other than the fact that they said the same thing. Not only has there not been an editor for this book, there hasn't been an editor at any point.
There never was.
There never was.
The greatest twist of all.
Right. So Rimlar's there. Rimlar's not in his hive. It's empty. They're laying low. They find him in some underground hideaway. And Rimlar...
Some hive-away, if you will.
Hive-away, yeah, sure. He's like, here's a magic cursed blade. You can use this to kill Lark. Go away now. And then she goes away, and that's it. So that's cool. She goes to the place of mirrors, which is apparently made out of Shade Maid, and this matters, and that's why powers are suppressed in there. But there's already someone there. Whoa.
I don't mean to interrupt and nitpick again.
Please.
But I was under the impression that the place of mirrors, and hold on because this might get confusing, was made of mirrors, not metal.
Super polished black mirrors.
Okay, great. Thank you for clearing that up. Carry on.
I don't know. Rin is back, baby. She's a zombie. And then they kill her. Though. She's dead. She's dead, and then they re-dead her. This is bad. This is a horrendous waste of a character. And like, we could have learned so much about how wildlings were doing, how they were adjusting to this new world, how Rin is as a leader, her interest in the snakes. But I guess this proves that she's not the traitor, so yay.
I know, like, Isla has already made Sky Isle a democracy since she doesn't feel qualified to rule the Starlings. Ren is the person who's actually been leading the wildlings around this whole time. Isla continues to have uncertainties about her ability to rule. It would have made so much sense if, at a later point in the series, Isla was like, hey, Ren, I should call you Ren Crown, because you're the one that deserves to rule. And then they make her, like, president or something. But no, now she's just a bunch of ashes.
Yeah, they murder her. Well, she was murdered, and then they re-murdered her. So that's... great. But her presence confirms that Lark has the Star Stick, which we knew implicitly because of how Lark was able to move her army onto the shore of Sun Isle that quickly. So now Lark has the Star Stick. I don't think this super matters, but this is supposed to raise the stakes. Also, Isla suddenly loses her psychic love bond to Grimm, which makes her freak out. But then... the Snake Woman is back, baby! Let's go! Let's go!
Here she is. She's the one we've been waiting to see.
She's back to eat more starlings for no reason. No, I'm just kidding. She's a zombie. She's also dead. I'm not as mad about Snake Lady being killed off screen and turned to a zombie as I am about, like, characters who do shit that I care about. But, like, I do kind of have to question randomly bringing out these characters that we haven't thought about in a while and making them zombies just for Isla to kill. So...
I mean, you keep adding character after character. At a certain point, you need to start getting rid of some, I guess, trimming the fat a little bit. Right. Making sure that there's not too many, so many that you can't keep track of. This is helping. This is helping, Andrew. This is helping.
But in the chaos... Isla stabs Oro by accident. Oh no! Isla uses her healing powers that she has now and like angstily heals him and finds some wildling elixir. And then Grimm shows back up with Zed. And then suddenly Rimlar's also there. I have no idea what the geography or the placement of these characters are.
So anyway, people are running around and you don't know where any of this is taking place, which is totally fair because it gets so hard to tell when anybody can warp anywhere at any time.
But yeah, the warping really f***s with the geography bad. But she gets a moment alone with Rimlar, which I think is really funny, where she just like, ha ha ha, so which one of these boys do you think I should kill for the prophecy? And Rimlar looks her in the face, and he's just like, Oro, kill Oro. And like, he's like, it's for the best. It'll remove the Nexus curse. And I'm like, well, that's true, but like, really blunt, dude.
I can't blame him for wanting to cut to the chase at this point.
Right, I guess.
He's like more or less all-knowing, it seems, so I can only assume that he's been having to experience this alongside the reader and is likewise ready for it to get on
over with. Well, yeah, he's from the other world like the blacksmith was. So
yeah, and the augur.
Right, and the augur. And maybe the prophet? I don't remember.
And the prophet. Actually, I think it was the prophet, maybe not the augur, because the augur was originally like
it literally does not matter, because no one... Canonically, you like start to lose memories of the other world, like a dream. So like, it means nothing that these people are extra dimensional. It's just...
Hell, we could be from the other world.
What if we are? Ooh.
Ooh. What if she comes back, or what if she jumps through the portal at the end of this one? Spoilers. And it turns out that Cronin Malvair is just like the president of the United States.
Isla just stands around in Sky Isle. It's showtime. She's holding the quote-unquote heart of Lightlark. And as predicted, Lark grabs her, pulls her underground, but it's actually a cool, awesome magic grenade. Ooh! And then there's a fight scene, and then Cleo joins in. Whoa! And also Soren, whom we haven't seen since maybe page 5 of Nightbane. Like, it's so long. Like, I've watched videos where people have, like, forgotten who this guy is, which I do not blame you for. He's like Cleo's little enforcer, man. He just is, like, her emissary.
He was her
something.
Proxy.
Right.
He was her proxy when she was refusing to show up to Oro's meetings. When she was just spitting in the face of his like, totalitarian rule. And he didn't do anything about it.
Apparently, Cleo helped Lark resurface again after all these millennia. I guess I don't know why she would do it other than like, I guess the promise of her son being resurrected, but like, how was contact established? How did they get to know each other?
Who cares?
Okay, awesome. She wants to resurrect her son, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that, but we mentioned it in Nightbane. Isla tries to stab Lark with the cursed blade that Rimlar gave her, and it's ineffective because Rimlar just got killed. Oh my god. And, like, Isla's like, Rimlar was a friend to me. Which, no, he was not.
No, he wasn't.
I get that your definition of friend is really f***ed up after all you've been through, but, like, that is not what a friend is. Friends do not help you resurface your traumatic memories of marrying a murderer and, like, attack you with bug people.
Like, you hang out with friends.
Right.
You don't go to them for information.
I do that to you. I don't... I'll text you about poetry things. I use you as
not
a vending
exclusively. If you started just being like, hey, I'm really confused about what I should do next. I just heard from the prophet and he said this. What do you think? I wouldn't answer.
Oh my god. So Isla's kept in this subterranean dungeon for weeks. Lark shows up to taunt her like Judge Holden in the basement of Chihuahua, and she just sits there shackled in these shade-made gauntlets like the ones that the blacksmith had made for her, and then she just broods for literal canonical weeks. And then Alex presses enter a million times with all of these inspirational quotes, and it turns out the power was within Isla this whole time. Yay! And she breaks out of the prison super style and lives to fight another day, and then she goes to the Wild Lake Newland for no reason. Tara and Poppy are there, and she learns for some stupid reason that they did not kill her parents. Isla killed her parents because she was so powerful that when she cried for the first time, it brought down the whole castle on everybody, which I think is a stupid way to go. I would rather it have been like some fiery explosion because, like, I don't know, like, they're superpowered people. Can't they, like, not Skyling, can't they like Starling shield themselves or like do something like that?
Couldn't Lark like make a ground dome, or not Lark, her mom.
It wasn't Lark, right?
Ground dome,
right?
Couldn't her dad make a shadow dome? I feel like we've seen Grimm do that before.
So
Lark can grow, I don't know, plants. Couldn't her mom do that? Like make a roof out of like Groot at the end of Guardians 1. I don't know.
So yeah, no, they're dead, and it's Isla's fault. And so to stop Isla from killing more people, Poppy and Tara would put ground shade made in all of her clothes and food and on her baby self or whatever. This was for her protection. Let's table the Tara trying to kill Isla in book 2 thing. So Poppy and Tara did not kill Isla's parents, but they were definitely in league with the evil ass Aurora, and they abused Isla. So like, they're still bad guys. They're still bad guys. None of this absolves them of anything.
No, doesn't make any sense.
So I don't understand why this is framed as a twist, because it only recontextualizes Poppy and Tara's villainy. It does not nullify it.
It does feel like gaslighting, like you've been saying. Like, I feel like this book wants us to believe that something different happened than what it already established, vis-a-vis Terry and Papa.
Right. I didn't kill your parents. I only abused you. Yeah, I didn't abuse you. I only colluded with someone who tried to murder you. Like, the goalpost is always shifting, but it's never good. But like, when you're getting hit by whiplash, you're like, oh yeah, well, okay, Poppy and Tara didn't kill her parents. That's great. I guess I'll forget about it then. But like, I will remember, Alex. I'm gonna remember this shit. So
I have to admit that I'm like breathing little sighs of relief as you're saying all this, even though you're really distressed, because like I had been thinking a lot of this, and I was worried that if I brought it up, you're going to be like, Jay, actually, you're forgetting something really obvious, and are you really stupid right now? Because like that was literally in the first book. But no, apparently it really is just that nonsensical. Like, they have been evil this whole time, and now the book is trying to tell us, actually, no, they weren't. It's fine. Like, they're friends. They've always been friends. There was just a misunderstanding.
By a combination of recontextualizing and withholding information, which can only be analogous to more abuse. So that's great.
Alex, I really feel like you're making me hang from a branch right now until my shoulders break.
It'll make you stronger. On a very sad note, this is why Lynx didn't like her in book 2, because she killed Lynx's last owner, which is like horrible.
Yeah, it really recontextualizes all of the like Lynx being like begrudging of being Isla's new pet in like a silly way. You know, like in the first time Lynx showed up, I feel like it was like, he's a grumpy guy. But now it's like, no, he was mourning. He was grieving.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well, Lynx is just holding Isla up to the high standards of his mother. And now I'm like, Lynx, get help. Get away from the situation. She murdered your best friend. Like,
yeah.
It's crazy.
You don't have to help her.
You don't have to help her. Isla resolves to be the one to make the storm to end all storms herself. Turn it on Lark and end this war once and for all. She tells Azul as much for some reason. Before the big day, she goes back to Isla Island and finds this hut where we read an entirely too long letter from her father that has so much information that does not matter, so much information that will not transform the plot at all. It's just, hello, I am your father. I loved my wife. We had a very happy life together. But here's the crazy shit. So Isla's mom had a flare that could let her see the future. And with this flare, she knew that the birth of Isla would kill them. But they still wanted to have her because they loved her so much, making Skyshade the first pro-life English Club podcast book. So that's great.
Yay!
Hooray for
someone
firsts.
Put that on the wiki.
Yeah, someone put that on the wiki. So much of this is book destroying. Not just the like, we know that you will kill us thing, but like how they know. What do you mean there's like a flare that lets you see the future, when there's augurs and prophets and soothsayers and oracles. Like,
and if someone can see the future and there is no way to change it, does that mean that like this is a determinist world in which there is no free will? Like metaphysically, if the future is completely certain, because heretofore, like, all of our prophets and whatever have told us these sort of vague horoscope-like little rhymes, and they could be interpreted a number of ways, and sometimes they're not even true, even though the book keeps insisting that they are, like the idea that Lark is a traitor. If someone can just see events occur and then describe them, and they are invariably correct, I mean, no wonder that person has to be dead, because if they were in the narrative, it would also destroy the book. But, like, if that's a power that is potentially available to Isla in the future, and the book seems to be hinting that it might be, like, how can anything matter?
I don't know. How can anything matter, Jay? It's almost like it doesn't. But in speaking of access to flares, there's also a bottle of, like, a distillation of her mom's flare that she just has now. I don't know how much this matters.
Which, apparently that's a thing that you can do, is, like, distill a person's flare into something that another person could then consume and obtain.
Right.
Has that been possible the whole time?
Not to my knowledge. But that's cool, because Drex are back, baby! Let's go!
Yay.
The Scaly Menace has returned. The final battle is so bad. The final battle is terrible. There are a million intersecting timelines, and we will see something happen and then flash back to when it was established, and everything is just so poorly described. And we're going to do our best.
I actually felt quite refreshed at this point, because this is exactly how the previous two books have ended. So this was very familiar. I was like, I'm in known territory now. Just because I don't actually have to keep track of what's happening. It's just this person's throwing shit, this person's blowing shit up, this person's flying around and like raining fire. It doesn't matter. Like, but I've seen this exact scene play out with the pieces slightly rearranged and the camera angle's a little bit different. Like, I was like, okay, I get this. People are just going to explode all over the place for a few pages.
Sure. So Grimm and Isla make out a bunch, and then it's time for their super awesome fight. Everyone uses their awesome powers. Inya flies around and burns zombies, and then Isla takes out Cronin's sword and summons the Drex. They are back. The Drex have storm rings. So, hold on. So that implies that there was one point where she summoned the Drex and then handed each one individually.
Them out.
Right, so, like, I guess... So Drex are, like, the cursed armies of Cronin Malvair who were, like, subjugated.
Yeah.
And Isla should have, like, really bad memories of these guys, because and half the people in the army should have really bad memories of these guys, so there should be opinions about them fighting alongside everyone else, at least ethically, because, again, these are insensate cursed soldiers.
Yeah. They're like the pirates in Pirates of the Caribbean a little bit.
They're like the pirates.
Is Azul the only one that can put that storm magic in rings? And if so, did he do every single one by himself, personally?
We will never know. But just imagine there are a million billion Scalies who each have a million billion rings, like an Elden Ring boss, and they, like, make storms appear, and they fight the zombies, and then there's a super duper tempest. Whoa! And then Isla unleashes a million billion storms of her own on the Hydra thing that was there before, that Lark apparently has. I guess that's the lightning creature from earlier. I don't know. But then Lark grabs Isla with vines again and pulls her back underground for the third time. But this time it's okay, because off screen, told to us in exposition given ex post facto, Cleo betrays Lark because of a promise Isla made to her. What this promise is, we will never be told. But it's a promise that Isla made. So now Cleo is on our side, and we learn it in, like, this twist when Lark's like, I have you now, time to die, Isla Crown. And then Cleo's like, whoosh, 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 fights her with a bunch of ice swords and, like, cuts her up into a million billion pieces so they can escape. after the bisexual ice knife barrage, Isla portals her and Lark to the center of the labyrinth. So I guess that's a thing they can do, even though powers don't work in the hedge maze or whatever.
I was confused by that as well. I was assuming that you wouldn't be able to get in or out using magic if it nullified all magic, but I guess you can get in, but just not out. Which seems like it would defeat the purpose of putting the coffin in the center of a maze, because the idea behind doing that is that you can't get in with magic. Because that's why you put the coffin in a magic-protected maze. So why is the maze there if you can warp in?
Because star sticks are not the same thing as magic. They are technology, which is atheist magic.
Otherworld technology.
Oh yeah, there's otherworld technology.
I freaking love science, dude. I can't wait to see what happens in the other world.
Science Bane. So we switched.
That's what they used to call me at the youth apologetics meetups.
Oh, based. That's what we. So we switched to Oro's perspective for no reason. I guess just for Oro to reveal the prophecy that she's destined to kill one of them. That ends on a cliffhanger. But honestly, I loved that scene because now Grimm knows that Isla has been like betraying him this entire time. So there's going to be hell to pay the next time they see each other. Now Grimm gets to feel spurned and betrayed, and hell hath no fury like a demon scorned. And like, I don't know. I just thought it was like that. It was very cinematic. That was like the one time I could picture what was going on in the scene where Oro's like, "Oh yeah, it probably has something to do with the prophecy," and Oro's like, "What prophecy?" It's funny.
It shows some restraint, because I feel like in Lightlark there would have been additional pages where Oro actually describes it in text for us to Grimm, even though we already know. Right. And maybe this is a moment of improvement.
Maybe the argument could be made by a rational human being that
I need something positive to hang on to right now. Just let's just say it's improvement, okay, and move on.
So it turns out that Isla, off screen, told to us through exposition given ex post facto, infused Cronin's coffin with her own blood, which makes like a super portal or something. I don't know. It's revealed that Aurora was never talking to Isla through the feather, but it was actually Lark this whole time, which explains something about her understanding of Isla's powers that she has. What a twist!
I'm sorry, I can't help you. I don't know why that happened.
What an amazing twist. Isla's only option is to pull Lark into the portal, knowing it's the one place that she can incapacitate Lark permanently. And that dimension's name, she tells us from exposition, from a flashback, and she only tells us ex post facto that she learned because it was written on the skull of the prophet or whatever. That dimension's name is Skyshade.
Roll credits. You said the title. What is the significance of that word? Does it mean anything? Do we have any context for it? I don't think so.
No, we don't.
Isla groaned, tasting the chocolate. It was velvety, rich, hot compared to the cold of the stones still against her back. Her eyes fell closed, savoring it. When she opened them again, she found him studying her. He looked transfixed. Before she could make another move, he gently took the mug from her hands, set it on the counter beside her hip, and brought a thumb to her lips, which she imagined were covered in chocolate. He brushed them, and she shivered. She didn't know what came over her, perhaps the reminder that her life was fleeting, but when he moved to drop his hand, her own came down over it. Grimm went still, his eyes bore into hers, waiting for her to tear away from him the way she had so many times before. She didn't, and slowly, so slowly, his calloused fingers curled around her jaw, threaded through her hair. Her fingers molded over his. They just stared at each other until his gaze dropped to her lips. The corners of his mouth lifted. "Missed some chocolate." His voice sounded strained. Her own was breathless. "Then get it."
So Alex, we really got kind of animated there. in places, and I know it was kind of a slog to get everything out that was in this book. But now that we have it all laying out before us, let's start slicing and dicing. Let's call out the things that we thought were good about Skyshade. You want to start us out, Jay?
Yeah, there's actually one whole scene that I thought was pretty good all the way through. And wow, that's actually really mean when you think about it. But it rarely happens on this show, so I want to give credit where credit is due. This entire scene I liked a lot. And that's the scene where Isla is chained up in the underground for the second time. And Lark is intermittently coming in to tease her and make fun of her and go, "Nana boo boo, you're trapped." And in between all that, she's being waited on by zombies. And she tries to reason with them, and they can't be reasoned with. And I found that very unsettling, even down to the way it was described. I didn't just like the concept. I thought it was well written. And there's a part where she actually bites one of its hands off because she's like refusing to eat, and it like feeds her. And then she like has to spit out, like its hand just comes right apart in her mouth and just like spit out all the fingers and ligaments and stuff. And I was like, that's really cool, actually. That's pretty good. Yeah, I thought that was a good moment. Well done.
This whole book really is like the Halloween special of Lightlark. There were, I guess it's a more authentically Gothic experience than Gothicana, if that's our barrier of entry here. But
in a way,
there were times when the atmosphere helped contribute to the book, especially in the beginning when we are learning Nightbane's ways and all the macabre things that make even the bravest bastards shiver. It gave us something. There's definitely more of an aesthetic identity here that we didn't necessarily have in the first two books. I don't think I would have wanted that aesthetic identity to be Spirit Halloween, but it's good.
Some kind of coherence is nice. It's there in little details, like Grimm having a winter palace that feels like very authentically monarchic in a way that like almost none of the rest of the series has. But then the winter palace is itself like spooky. It's like derelict. Right. It's like a coffin for all of Grimm's good childhood memories, but it's still dark and gloomy. And like you said, it contributes to the atmosphere, but also it feels like, I don't know, coherent within the world.
I thought it was interesting, more so than Nightbane even, Skyshade is aware of the fact that it's a sequel to something. I don't know if you picked up on this, but I wish I had mentioned this in the summary. There's this part, like, when Isla finally accepts that Poppy and Tara didn't kill her parents, and she's learning that she, like, killed them with her first cry or whatever. Poppy is, like, braiding Isla's hair as she's receiving this information, which is a callback to like the first page of Lightlark. So there's an awareness of the fact that these characters have had a history together and that they've done things together before. And it's very subtle. She didn't sit there and think, oh, Poppy was braiding my hair just like she did on page 1 of Lightlark before the Centennial. But like you pick up on it because that's your first exposure to Lightlark. And it's nice to see. Even the chocolate, which is a plot hole and is bad and is weird and gross, having the chocolate come back and being like, hey, we are two human beings who have had a relationship, and by process, this is a book that has had several volumes by now. Having an acknowledgement of that gave some depth to the experience.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where it's almost infuriating because it's like, okay, Alex Astor can write. Like, she understands some of the foundational elements of storytelling. Right. And I think that if she had not had so much smoke blown up her ass by Book Talk before this even came out, and then get pressured, I assume, by publishers into pushing out sequel after sequel as quickly as possible, she might have actually come to master some of these things.
Sure.
Like the callback and the parallelism. But instead, she just seems to know that they exist, and she deploys them because they are literary devices, but with no sense of like why or when. Like they just happen.
I know that my big last time on SBU segment could have been construed as like making fun of her, but genuinely, like, there's a lot of interesting stuff being set up here. Even at the end of book 2, there was some thread to follow that could have led to an interesting story. So I think there's a lot of potential in Alex. It's not like she never should write anything. It's not like she's some gross, weird pervert like other people, or she's actively malicious like other people. That
like some
had.
people who we've disinvited from club and stopped telling the room number of.
Right.
Another scene that I liked, and this is also kind of gothic, so maybe I just like corny, spooky shit, which no surprise there. But the scene where the prophet followers all kill themselves in front of her, and she tries to take that one guy's sword, and in response he just like falls directly onto it. I liked that imagery a lot. That plotline, if it had been followed, could have been really interesting. Because that's kind of just where the prophet followers stop. But like if there had been more and people keep killing themselves in front of her, like sporadically, that could have been unsettling or interesting.
Right.
Especially because, did we bring up in the summary the fact that she takes people's power when she kills them?
Crap.
That gets revealed at the end?
No, I didn't mention that in the million billion other things that happen. All right, so
Okay.
I'm not going to edit this, but pretend that we said this in the summary.
Yeah, no, don't edit this. It's funnier if it just pops in now incidentally, because it gives you a good sense of like how hard it is to follow even completely critical things. Please understand how hard this is genuinely, club members. We're asking for your clemency, or at least I am. But yeah, so like Isla has the power to take people's powers when she kills them, and that's why the prophet followers had her kill them by falling on swords that she was holding, because they are trying to give their power to her so that she can carry it into the new world.
Right.
Which, now that I'm thinking about it, means that presumably she also has the power to control people by touching them, because she did kill Tynan.
She did kill Tynan. Well, that's why her blood speaks in a myriad tongues, or whatever the augur says.
That's so true. Many people are saying this. Anyway, I liked that scene where they killed themselves in front of her because it was unexpected and intense.
Yeah.
It made me feel something other than just sort of dull angst.
I kind of glossed over it, but I did really like the Oro and Grimm team-up parts of the book right at the climactic fight. I would have wanted more of that to see like how they interact with each other, but pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cute.
I like it when characters that we know do things with other characters that we know, and fun things happen.
Wish we didn't have to keep saying that. I thought we established that pretty firmly in Nightbane, but
nope.
Here we are.
Yeah, it still comes up. Still relevant.
Especially with this book ostensibly being about a love triangle at its heart. It's nice when there is a triangle and not just two separate lines that consist of 2 points.
They really are completely parallel, yeah. Or like intersecting at the single point of Isla.
Yeah. Oh, here's something. And this is like smaller, but it's more intimate in a way that I really appreciate in literature. This is definitely a poetry thing. But there's a moment where Isla is going for a swim. And the book says she liked it, the feeling of the water through the roots of her hair. And I liked the tactileness of like the water. It's not just the water through her hair, but it's like the water running through the roots of her hair along her scalp. And that made me think, this is something that Alex Astor enjoys the sensation of as a human being. And I felt in that moment like I was in touch with another person. Like someone was writing this knowing that other people were going to read it.
Right.
And wanted those people to feel a connection to her and her experience of the world. And I was like, yes, please. More of this specific detail that like speaks to you as a person.
That's gotta be a poetry thing, because I don't even remember that sentence. I get what you mean, though. I don't know.
It is not a consequential sentence. I don't blame you for not remembering. But it was the kind of thing that, like, this whole book makes me feel so unmoored when I read it.
Yeah.
That was very grounding to me. I was like, I understand what this is after. This is just a person experiencing something and they want to share that experience with me.
Right.
I get that.
I'd like a Christmas experience where I run around and have honeymoon activities on a Hallmark set. So it wasn't good, but I would like that in real life. Maybe not the bookshelf pelting, but everything else.
Because you wanted to record this as quickly as possible, you burdened me with bringing it to Budapest, which was a little vacation I went on with my partner who was visiting. And so I was reading this as we were in Budapest going to all the Christmas markets, and it was actually snowing one day that we were there. And Budapest is like a pretty gothic city, like compared to Vienna. Like a lot of the buildings are just as ornate, but they're kind of peeling and things are like slightly dirty and everything sort of smells like cigarettes in a good way. I love that kind of environment. But I was like, it was not lost on me that like I was experiencing the exact thing that in the book I was hating every second of. It's just so funny, that
That's
nonsensical parallelism.
There were some jokes. There was levity in this book that I thought was there. I laughed 2 times at this with this book. So I don't remember laughing any times in any direction for the other 2 books. So plus 2 funny points.
2 funny points. So I think she has 2 writing points now and 2 funny points.
Yes. That's probably
good.
Correct.
Okay. She's in the black is the good one, right? Thing in the black?
Yeah, black is good.
Okay, she's in the black. Thanks, business major.
That right.
Your purpose has been served for today.
Plum out.
I don't have anything else either.
Okay. Okay, bad things now.
Is that the segue? She guided his hand lower again. Lower until his knuckles traced a path between her hip bones, leaving her skin prickling. Isla, I think you inhaled too much sand in the storm, Aura was saying somewhere far away. It has power. It can heighten senses. Emotions. Yes, that was what she felt. Heightened. Every nerve was on fire. He began to move his hand away, but she said,
"You're an asshole for making me read this." Oh man, they're gonna love this soundbite. Please don't stop touching me. Never stop touching me.
But he did. He looked pained, but he gently removed his hand. Sleep, Isla. If you can. Sleep. She didn't want to. She was suddenly burning more than she ever had in the desert, but as she rested against the warm floor, sleep reached her quickly, and she dreamed of the night before the battle.
Dun dun dun.
All right, well, we did our best with that. Now let's get into some critiques. Quick fire round, Andrew. Hit me with some small ones.
Okay. It is incredibly weird to me that a book called Skyshade did not feature Azul more prominently. I know you and I are both Azul stans, but especially since we got so much mileage out of him in Nightbane, I was like, Skyshade. Okay, so something's going to happen in Sky Isle that is relevant to Nightshade. Mm-hmm. And that kind of happened, but Azul was a vending machine.
It's so weird, not just that, but that the novel that prominently features storms as a plot device, as the villain of the week, as it were.
Yeah.
Like, the storms aren't happening in the sky world, where that would presumably be the most affected by big storms. Like, wouldn't it have been cool if the storms were, like, knocking floating islands out of the sky, or, I don't know, making it impossible for there to be air travel and disrupting, like, supply lines or something? Something real that actually matters to people.
Because that's something that they're working on rebuilding, because the Skylings haven't flown for 500 however many years. They're still rebuilding their floating islands.
And they mentioned being like postmen, I think, in one of the books. So it's like
the airmail hasn't come back.
Yeah, wouldn't they be... What if, like, the airmail got derailed?
That would do a lot to supply chain lines and affect the local economy, I think.
Thanks again, business major. Anyway, back to literature. I mean, wouldn't it have been interesting, though, if this book did a hard pivot to being about mail and postage?
It would be better than the Christmas Hallmark movie that we got.
I would have been excited if this book was just really, really into mail.
Azul's into mail.
Ayo.
Anyways.
Well, not since his husband died.
You don't stop being gay when your husband dies.
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay. This is a question, but it's definitely a bad thing that I'm asking it. What is the relationship between the prophet and the augur? Because the prophet...
augur is a apostate prophet.
Is that true, or are you making that up?
No, I think so. I think there's some tension between them.
So they're both under the aegis of Nightshade?
Yeah, but I think they belong to that sort of like, I don't know what they are. They feel like fairy tale creatures. Like all the entities that came over from the other world or have otherworld power. So like you mentioned like the blacksmith, the oracles, and we know the prophet. The augur too feels like just some kind of entity, and the snake woman, honestly, that like they have no fealty to anyone. They seem like not more powerful than the rulers, but like somehow above them or other than them. Like Grimm seems to have no power over any of these people that live in his world and I guess eat from his stores.
Right.
So
they
like,
don't even seem to like him.
Yeah. Like how does that work?
I don't know. I don't know. It was ridiculous, like how it felt to climb this mountain, talk to the prophet, realize that the prophet is actually dead and it's a woman named Ita, have her say, I can't help you, but go talk to the augur, a word which just means prophet. And then they go, and then Ida officiates their wedding. Like, what are the factions here? Like you were mentioning, like the demons and the pigs fighting each other. Like, what's the relationship between the oracles and the augurs and the nightshades? It's all just a nebulous mess of forest people.
It feels like it was not thought about at all. It feels like there's just conflicting rule sets and magic systems like layered over top of each other, and like they just have to interact as little as possible so that you don't think about it. Speaking of people that prognosticate and also demons, what is... It sounded like a riddle. What is the metaphysics of this world? What is the cosmology? That's what I meant. What is the cosmology of this world?
I don't know.
Like, we previously had almost no mention of demons, of souls, anything, metaphysical. All of a sudden, we have these Skyers that, like, allegedly are going to cost Isla her soul. So, like, she has a soul now. We also have Aurora maybe talking to her from the afterlife. We have demons. And I just noticed this reading, but I know this is in Nightbane too. In the map, in the front and back of the book, there's a location on Lightlark. That's the island Lightlark, not the planet Lightlark or the dimension Lightlark. Well, it is on both of those too, but specifically it's on the island. There's a place called the Abbey, which would imply some kind of institutional church. And I'm like, what do they believe in this world about when you die? And there's zombies too, all of a sudden. Like, the afterlife suddenly seems like it matters when never before did it at all. But also the novel doesn't seem to be interested in it, even a tiny bit.
Yeah,
and I'm just confused.
On. So, what are the craters? What is the last tower? What is Insignia? Broken Harbor? Singing Mountains?
No clue. Forgotten Mine.
Wow.
White Cliffs.
So what you're saying is someone looking into getting more information about this book would only be more confused by consulting the ephemera.
Yeah, I'm saying that the paratext is a red herring as much as Ren is a red herring.
How is the prose worse than Nightbane? Like, not like how did it happen? How
I thought you were like, Jay, explain it to me right now in 500 words or less. How can you let that happen? This is another thing I neglected to mention in the summary, but I have to because it is so funny. The first storm, I think, there's rain pattering against the windows. The raindrops are compared to throwing stars. A page later, 200 words later, the raindrops are compared to throwing stars. Now, it's not twice in the book. It's not, they say it once in the beginning and once in the middle. So you like, oh, maybe she overlooked that. It's like the tomb thing where it's like within the space of a page. So not only are the blade metaphors back, they are substantially worse and less varied to a comical Was this
degree.
written before Nightbane, you think? And like somehow things got rearranged?
Maybe it was. I don't know. I do use the knife metaphors to establish like a timeline of Alex's development. The sentence structure is so choppy, and I think one of our dramatic readings will just say like, that made Isla sad, and that is the extent of any like description that we get of just about anything.
Yeah, like does she have an inner world? Or is she just thinking about like literally what's happening at this exact moment and maybe what to do next?
Yeah, she's like living from moment to moment. It's Nova's playlist. She's like Avril, where every time she gets in a new situation, that is her life forever. There is the beginning and then there is the next, but there is never the before the beginning or after the next. There is just now. And that's a terrifying position to be in because you're being chased around like an animal from place to place.
From God teleport to God teleport.
From God teleport to God teleport.
But instead of working menial wage jobs, you're having to go obtain an artifact that will immediately be handed to you only so that the next one can then be obtained.
Right. You don't even have to go through a challenge to get the thing.
Well, we're talking about the prose being worse. I have to make sure I've made exactly clear what I mean when I say that, like, I feel like these books don't know what words mean or doesn't have, like, some kind of relationship to language as a medium. Like, you would think that Aster, as a writer, would be interested in words and, like, how they work and how you use them to communicate information. Like, on some level. I know that not every writer is meta like that. There's more of them in poetry than there are in fiction these days. That's fine. But there are moments where it becomes really clear that, like, she's not thinking about the associations that words have. So somewhere in the middle of the book, she's talking about islands, and she says, how could something that large not have been developed in all the years since the curses? She's talking about an empty patch of land. That terminology sounds like something that a suburban real estate investor would say. How come no one has developed this land? Like, what are they going to do? Turn it into a suburb? What do you mean developed? You mean why has it not been settled? Why does no one live there? Why is it empty? Why would you say developed? Like, this isn't the pre-2008 era, like, before the housing crisis. Like, use words that make sense, dog. This is your medium.
It's like that meme style where there's like a picture of a scenic vista, like a canyon or whatever, and the caption is just like, imagine a Walmart parking lot being here.
Yes, it is literally that.
But unironic. It's shit like Wraith. It's shit like the meaningless distinctions between the different words for profit that she uses. And it boils over to the point where, like, you barely know what you're reading sometimes.
Yeah, and it's shit like Grimm when he calls her Heart as a nickname, that word never being capitalized.
Yeah.
That's her name. That he doesn't call her Isla, he calls her Heart. It's a nickname, you capitalize it.
Right.
That's how it works. And I don't just say that to be mean about grammar, but, like, that's how you distinguish it from other nouns. Like, it has real utility. Like, why aren't you doing that?
Why aren't you doing anything, Alex?
I almost said it's like she's not trying, but I don't actually believe that. I feel like no one is checking.
God, when did Nightbane come out?
I don't remember. I don't keep track of these things.
Because, I mean,
you just tell me when to buy one, and I do.
I'm not God's gift to writing or anything, but I couldn't write something that Skyshade is supposed to have been in, like, less than a year. I guarantee you a lot of people couldn't. And,
yeah.
What is this publication schedule that she's, like, having to churn all this stuff out?
I don't know. They must be worried about having, like, a Nexus situation where nobody reads it if it doesn't come out fast enough on the hype of the first one.
And Nexus didn't take that long either, by my estimation. It was like maybe 365 days, probably a little bit less than that. I don't want to get too meta yet, so let me bring it back down. Isla, I'm speaking to you directly, the fictional character. You are being abused. I don't mean to be this real or this realistic, and I'm not just doing that thing where guys shit on media intended for girls. Romance, especially like romantasy like this, is a roller coaster. The idea is that we're supposed to experience the vicarious thrill of a shady, morally gray man falling in love with us. Obviously, Grimm is not a good romantic partner in real life. Like, that's a stupid point to make. The point I am making here is this isn't Edward Cullen sneaking into Bella's room and watching her sleep. This isn't Tamlin kidnapping Feyre and taking her to Fairy World. Isla is being emotionally abused. We were talking about it earlier, where every time Isla does anything, or says that she does anything, or says that she likes anything, Grimm has an inverse opposite tragic backstory to where he just starts talking about, oh, you like chocolate? Well, my one guardian was drowned in chocolate after she handed me a bonbon when I was like,
her name was Augustus Gloop.
Right? It's funny to talk about, but to literally experience it either through reading or through having a partner like this is really demoralizing and gaslighty and bad. And I hate that this is presented uncritically, or Isla's never like, hey, do you have any like non-horrible tragic backstories about anything that I care about or have to say? Like, you're being abused, Isla, and I'm worried about you, Alex, that like this is just something that we're presenting.
He sucks, and this side of him
sucks.
actually sucks worse than him killing everybody who shows slight romantic interest in her. Maybe just because that feels like a more familiar trope, and so I'm more used to just shrugging it off and being like, yeah, whatever. He kills people that are interested in her out of jealousy, and we're supposed to think that's hot. Like, it's dumb, it's toxic, but like whatever. I've seen it. This feels a little different. It feels more targeted in the way that she's like, hey, I'm trying to open up to you about this, and whereas Oro would be like, yeah, let's really talk about that in a way that I personally found slightly annoying and off-putting. But it seemed genuine enough. Grimm is like, yeah, well, actually, I have the same backstory, but more tragic, and my mom also died.
Right.
And then Isla's like, wait, didn't your mom die in that other story you told me? And he's like, yeah, well, I brought her back to life, and then she died again.
And I'm not like, Grimm kills people, therefore I would not date him. Like that's not what we're saying here. Like, I want to draw a distinction between sins affair for media like this and things that are legitimately harmful. And I believe that this level of emotional manipulation is the latter.
Andrew, I have a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
We've read the same book 3 times now.
I disagree, but I'll let you state your case.
Okay, hear me out on this. Both this book and its prequels, its predecessors, have the same 3 central elements. Number 1, arbitrary time limit. In the first one, obviously, it's the centennial. In the second one, it's the countdown to Grimm's invasion. In this one, it's the storms that are going to destroy Nightbane, but it's simultaneously Isla's body that Grimm's life is supporting imminently failing. Even though she never seems to be getting worse or whatever, there's like this hard deadline, end of winter, she's just going to fall over, I guess.
Right.
Second, we have a new set of all-powerful curses that have been binding the world since the dawn of time. In Lightlark, it was, of course, the curses. In the second one, we were introduced to Nexus. In this one, we have Nexus, but we also have the storms. They're just these world-destroying curses that have always been there, but this is our first time hearing about them. And finally, we have new MacGuffins to hunt. I'm not going to list them because there's billions of them in every single book, but it's this chain of hunting MacGuffin after MacGuffin to immediately solve a problem to get a new MacGuffin. And to this I ask, Alex, what is the end game here? Where is this going? Is this just going to be 2 more books of a new time limit, a new set of curses, and new MacGuffin hunts, new fetch quests? What story are you trying to tell us here? You pitched this as a love triangle, magical Hunger Games. Now we're at a point where the love triangle barely matters. Isla goes back and forth between these 2 guys who rarely interact, and she squabbles with both of them for various reasons. The love triangle thing barely matters. The Hunger Games thing hasn't mattered for 2 books. It was pitched on like a very specific angle that was built out of tropes that people like. I think that's a shitty way to pitch a book, but I understand it has its utility, and we've seen that. I'm holding the results of that in my hands right now.
Right.
However, the first book barely delivered on either of those things. We're now 3 books in, and we have ceased to deliver on any of them at all.
Anything.
We need a strong, and I mean strong, rediversion back to course. And I realize this sounds like I'm talking down to you. It's fine if you construe it that way. I think that this, if you hear it and take it to heart, could be beneficial to you, and that's why I'm taking this tone. Please Please think about the story that you actually want to tell, because otherwise we're going to meander and flounder for the next 2 books, squander all of our time, and end up having said nothing and contributed nothing. Not to get dire, but that's where we're at.
That kind of leads me to something that I think is kind of my biggest takeaway, and I've talked about this on Goodreads already. This won't be a surprise to anyone who's hung out on the Discord. This is a qualified statement, but I do stand by it. Skyshade by Alex Astor is the worst book that I have ever read. Not just for the podcast, but just like period. We have read books that are more evil. We have read books that are more unpleasant to read. But like I found out, the more I looked into Nightbane and Lightlark and tried to like put the pieces together, the book is completely decimated by scrutiny. Even with our evil, unpleasant, bad books, like you can pick apart a Rich Shapiro novel and understand what he was trying to say, or like argue about what he was trying to say, understand that certain things are intended to be symbols and like have opinions on them. The more you look at Skyshade, the more it falls apart in your hands like ash. And
like a corpse.
Like a corpse. Like a corpse when you take the finger of a god away from your boyfriend's granddad's corpse. Like,
just like that thing that we've all experienced.
This is more Nova's Playlist than Nova's Playlist, because every single time your feet are on solid ground, something is coming to swoop you away, and then you have to get used to a completely new paradigm that isn't connected to the last one. There's always another MacGuffin. There's always another character. There's always another synonym for prophet, and then it all comes together in this hodgepodge mess where your fucking grandma has decided that she's a necromancer now and that she's still alive, nullifying an entire book that you have spent so long marketing on TikTok to where like this fails to be literature. And I know that's prescriptivist, and I know people have problem with prescriptivism, but the Shah of Iran said either this thing of ours has meaning or it has no meaning. And I don't want to live in a world where this thing has no meaning. I get so angry. Like this is worse than Powerless. I was angry at Powerless because she was just like a child. Something should have changed by now. What's going to happen in book 4? I don't know if I want to read it, because I feel like I'm just going to get nauseated and headaches and for nothing, for us to yell for 5 hours at a screen because this awful book keeps coming out in different forms.
Just when you think you're out, it pulls you right back in, and it's exactly the same as it was last time.
Right, and I let it fool me every time, and that's on me. I'm not saying that I was duped, but like 14 pages, for exactly 14 pages, I was like, okay, Skyshade has enough to become a narrative. And it didn't.
Okay, one of the things I wanted to make sure I said, even though I already said it in the summary, is please stop introducing things. And Andrew, you kind of just said this too. It's like, at 14 pages in, you'd already introduced enough in this book, let alone all the stuff that's been introduced over the past 2 books, to have an interesting story. The way to make the story more interesting, or to develop it or whatever, is not to just continuously add things, especially not if those things are reskins of things that we already have. Right. We don't need an oracle, but actually 2 more oracles, but actually also a prophet, and also an augur, and also Isla's mom could see the future, which does make her a prophet, for what it's worth.
Like, by definition, yeah. Holy shit.
We don't need more of the same. We just need to do things with what we already have. And I feel like I sound crazy having to say that, because it's self-evident. But like, we don't need Drex that are invincible and also invincible zombies.
Right.
Like, and both of them can be anywhere at any time because of teleporting or flying or appearing out of the ground. Like, just one will do. Mm-hmm. Just one is fine.
And at some point, and I think the point is now or pretty damn soon, we're going to hit terminal mass of the amount of shit that you can cram into a narrative universe, and it will fall apart on itself.
I think that's why she had them go to another world. Because it lets her kind of say, okay, that's that world and all of its rules. Now I can start over without actually starting over.
If she wanted to start over without actually starting over, we would have been in Skyshade by now. Why? We had a whole other book of dicking around. You think in two books there's going to be a complete like soft reset?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
That's my prediction. Because I think that, like you said, she's being put under incredible pressure to get these out really, really fast. And I think she probably like hasn't had enough time to fully plan them. And I think there's a good chance that like she's trying to soft reset things a little bit. Maybe delay for a book and then have them recollide in the 5th one. And I could be totally wrong about this. This is a shot in the dark. But that is like what I'm feeling right now.
I think it's not implausible. It's just like, maybe I would have been more charitable to that concept before Skyshade, when I've completely lost faith in any redemption for the Lightlark series. I hope you're right. I don't want to agree with you, but I hope you're correct.
I mean, I don't think it would be a good thing, to be clear. I think it's still more just avoidance. It's avoidance of sitting down with the stuff you've actually introduced and writing a story about it. And I think it would allow the book to avoid, like you said, reaching terminal mass a little bit longer. But it's still not going to fix anything.
Can a story to anyone's satisfaction be told with the immensity of shit that we have flying around that we have to deal with? I almost think that a soft reset is the only path forward, because it's that or stagnate and never publish another book. I don't necessarily want that to happen. I want Alex to make more books. I don't necessarily want more Lightlark books. So
yeah. I want Alex to like have a fulfilling writing life, whether or not that's in the publishing industry. Like I want her to be happy with the things that she writes and feel fulfilled by it as a person. And I kind of feel like this series is not doing that for her. Maybe at one point she thought it would. Maybe she was genuinely excited about the ideas in Lightlark. I've seen some of those like original TikToks and she seemed like genuinely very cheery about it. But I can't imagine that like that's still where things are. Or I have a hard time imagining that. Because if she was interested in that core idea, like that particular blend of tropes that she liked, they're not here anymore. So did she lose interest in them, or was she forced to abandon them by her own writing getting out of control? I think it's probably the latter, but it might not be.
It has to be the latter, because I feel crazy. I feel like genuinely insane after reading this book, because I just keep unraveling and unraveling and unraveling all of these things that get worse the more that I try to reckon with them. So I don't know. It feels
like she's hyperventilating.
Yeah. It feels like she's having a panic attack. And everything's like feeding into the next thing that comes, and there's never an end point. It's like you said, that was I didn't think about the flare making her mom a prophet, but it's an oracle, 2 oracles. Those oracles are dead. A prophet, an augur, a dead prophet's skin that you need to get the pages from, and then that helps you find the vial of see the future juice. It's like everything is cycling into like the next thing, and it reminds me of this like phenomenon where like rich people will take out one loan, use it to finance the other, use that to finance the next, in this constant cycle where you're constantly cash poor. You don't have any like leverage of your own. You're just saying, hey, look at this cool new thing. Hey, look at this cool new thing. Hey, look at this cool new thing. Hoping that we will never ask you to pay off each individual one, because you're always using credit from the last thing to pay into the next thing. And that's why it feels like everything's circling around you and things are flying in your face just when it needs to happen. And there's never any like time where we sit with a conflict. Isla always has to get the key, because if she stops for one split quarter of a goddamn second, she will have to explain something. And I think she can't do that without destroying this entire universe. Like,
yeah, she's on the run from her own story.
Literally, that's literally how it feels. You can't stop.
I have to wonder if this is what it feels like to be on minute 14 of your 15 minutes of fame. Like if Alex Astor is worried that these books are not going to keep selling, and she has to keep upping the ante, keep raising the stakes. If that's how it's going to be, that she stays a part of book talk. Like if she continues to ride the wave, if she stays in their favor. I don't honestly know what the general book talk vibe on this series is right now. I know there's a lot of hype for the initial one, and it seemed to be maintained for the second. I haven't really been following it since. So maybe this is like me totally talking out of my ass, but I really wonder, like, can this be sustained? If she keeps writing the same book over and over and over again, how long until people catch on and just lose interest? And then what happens? Well, then probably you end up like Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings, which is to say you disappear. Like, and I don't think she wants that. I really don't think she wants that.
Yeah, and I don't want that. I don't want people to disappear. Like, that's... You might hear other booktubers say that, but like that's not what SVU is about.
I want Alex to keep writing books, and I want her to keep getting better at writing books. That's like the whole point of this club. I do not want her to disappear. I don't want her to become the poster child for a new model of selling books, where you blow up a title off of hype, you make bank off of the first two in a series, and then you fade into obscurity, and then nobody ever wants to publish your name again because everybody in the meantime has realized your books are terrible.
Right.
Like, I want her to be writing literature that makes her happy and makes other people happy and is of quality. And I don't think that, as things are currently going, she's achieving that or doing something that's sustainable for her career. But what do I know? I am not an industry expert. I'm just a literature enjoyer.
I know they'll keep selling because this always robbing Peter to pay the next Paul model is great for swiping on TikTok, not thinking of anything for longer than the 15 seconds it flashes in front of your face. It's very similar to that thing where that's a good analogy for it. Actually, it feels like you're doom scrolling, you know, like you're sitting there swiping on this book, but it's on paper.
Yeah.
It draws attention to how fatiguing and mind ruining that action is.
That's a good read on it, actually. That it does feel like it's starting over every 10 seconds, just like that.
Pav, you are going to the prophet. Pav, you are going to the augur. Pav, you are going back to the prophet.
You're going back to the augur with more hearts. Pav, this girl keeps leaving hearts in front of your door, and you keep telling her to bring more. You're gonna see how long she'll keep doing it. Pav, I have 12 hearts now, and she keeps doing it. Is it still funny? Should I stop? Pav, you're the last living guardian of the insect people, and you live in the hive. This girl keeps coming and asking you for information. You tried to kill her, but she still keeps coming.
She thinks she's your friend. Oh my god. Yeah, worst book I've ever read.
Saoirse's eyes gleamed with fervor. She was buzzing with energy, and so were the others, as if something big was about to happen. Isla felt the same dread, the same prickling on the back of her neck that had come just before the breaking of the storm.
I wish you could read his teachings. His book is full of wonders, and you. He had so much to say about you.
What did he say? She demanded. Etna had hinted at her destiny. Saoirse smiled.
He said that at the end of the world, a girl will be born from life and death. The girl will either destroy the world or save it. She would either be a curse or a remedy.
Saoirse's grin grew even wider. She was shaking with excitement as she said,
Don't you see? You are the girl, the one that was promised. So is there any fixing this?
Is that the intro?
Yeah. I don't care anymore.
There is a way of fixing this, but there's some things that we need to do if this is going to get fixed. And one of them is acknowledge that this book is bad for everybody.
Yeah.
Its existence is a net negative for the world. Let me explain in case that sounds hyperbolic. I've already explained why this book is bad for Alex Astor and her reputation. This book is also, of course, bad for young readers, who I can only assume are one of the main target demographics of the first book. When I say young, I don't mean children. I mean like tweens and early to mid-teens. This is bad for them because they're reading this instead of other literature that would be better, and almost any literature would be better than this. This is bad for book talk because it helps continue to make it a space where people are reporting more on hype trains than they are on actual literature and discussions of said literature. I would hope that a thing called book talk would be about like discussing the contents of books and not just selling things off of tropes. Personally, I would like to see that world. I don't know if it's ever going to come to pass, but this book contributes to what I see as a problem. This book is bad for young writers who I worry could be learning that a successful writer is not somebody that actually writes well. It's rather somebody that gets a viral marketing train going on Book Talk and sells a bunch of books before the book itself even exists. Kind of like how big tech works, actually, a little bit, where you just get people to invest in an idea that never will come to be. I don't want to see literature end up like that. And I hope that like kids and teens that are interested in writing don't see this and think that that's what they should be doing. Right. There are 2 people that this book is good for. Well, 3 in the short term. In the short term, it's good for Alex Astor because she's definitely making a lot of money. And that's good. It's good for writers to make money. It's also really, really good for publishers, obviously. This is an industry. It's a business after all. And this is good for us, unfortunately, smaller group of people who make and enjoy podcasts like this, where we try to understand how literature works by looking at literature that doesn't work. And that's about it. So it's good for like maybe 10 people. Right. And if we are going to fix this book, we need to understand that. Like, this book is a problem. This book is not evil in the way that Rich Shapiro's Wild Animus was evil, but this is a symptom of a real issue. Right. Where to even start? I think one place it could start is figuring out what we want to do with this love triangle. When I was 60-ish pages into this book, there was a moment where Isla was having one of these internal little conflicts about Orogrim. It's boring. I don't care about that. But that is what this book was pitched as, and it appealed to enough people that this book exists. I think we need to figure out what this love triangle is and like what role it has in the overarching story. And that also applies to the love triangle that happened between Lark, Cronan, and Forrest Ray. Because that's such a missed opportunity. It's a love triangle, and it's parallelism. But Alex Astor needs to be thinking about, why did she introduce this parallelism? What does she want it to say? Does it indicate that Isla is going to become evil like Lark because in some way love tears you apart and drives you mad? I mean, I think that'd be a very superficial read on the world, but it would be a read on the world that I could extract from this book and play with in my head, and that would be a rewarding process of engaging with a book, which I think is what they're for. I've been told. And I would like that a hell of a lot better. Like, reading Wild Animus, I'm like, wow, this is like a male manipulator manifesto. Like, this is a guide of how to abuse your impressionable girlfriend. And like, I am horribly disturbed by that, but also I can talk about it. This is like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Can we sit down and figure out this whole freaking world with Azul? It's an absence of ideas. Like, we could get this resolution where Isla finds a way to make it work with both Grimm and Oro. And through that, we see that Lark being driven mad by her love triangle failing was just, she did it wrong, or she was a weak person, or she failed to be resilient, or something like that. And then we see, look, Isla can triumph over this thing that her ancestor failed to triumph over. Again, kind of boring, but like, that's a story. It's a story. It's like how I thought like the traitor was going to be Isla herself. Like, I was like, oh, well, you know, it's a pretty obvious twist, but it's a twist. It's something. It will reward you for engaging with the story, which I think is one of the main things we're missing. Easy version of Jay's suggestion. If you don't want to go all in on completely like changing the structure and the emotional through line, not even changing because there's no emotional through line, but you know what I mean. A less extreme version of what Jay is saying is, 1, cut out one of the prophets for space. 2, up the introspection that Isla has by 20%. Give me 20% more introspection on Isla's part. I mean the feather, and I mean Lark Crown. So with the feather, I think we said the last word on it, but just to rehash, like, she thinks that her best friend whom she loves and can recognize by the handwriting. I don't know what Jay's handwriting looks like. I couldn't recognize my wife's handwriting, like, just by sight, you know, like, so like,
she loves this person so much and has this ability to talk to her from the dead after so long, and she has no opinions on it. She just says, hey, do you know what this unrelated magical item is? And she's like, yeah, let me teach you how for redemption. We don't hear what she thinks. We don't have like a moment where Isla's in, what is it? Denial, anger, bargaining, acceptance. Like, she doesn't grieve her dead friend who betrayed her before she died. And on the other side of the coin, it is extremely, extremely harrowing to have someone who, one, looks like you, two, is your actual ancestor, come back from the dead as a necromancer leading a zombie army to kill you and your husband, not even boyfriend. So like, and this might as well just be some fucking guy, the way Isla reacts to it. Like, could Isla sit down for 2 seconds and be like, wow, my ancestor is attacking Lightlark. I feel XYZ thing about it. I can compare this to XYZ thing in my life. You can keep everything else the same. You already have like 20 pages of space. If you take out one prophet and shove that into a tighter space, you can expand it just a little bit, and everything would be okay. Everything would be fine. It still wouldn't be a great book, but like things would happen in it that have emotional resonance.
It would feel so much more contiguous.
Contiguous, yeah.
There would be tendons connecting the finger ligaments of this zombie arm of a book.
Yeah, and if you bit them, they wouldn't just fall apart, and you'd have to spit them out in disgust.
They would resist a little, and then they would pop satisfyingly like a grape.
Right, which is what all good literature should do. Agreed. Don't make Wraith act like a dog.
Don't make Wraith act like a dog. Don't make Grimm do that joke where it's like the dad that didn't want to adopt the dog, but then secretly loves the dog.
Right.
It's not funny. We get it. Please don't just throw in words like soul and abbey and an afterlife. If your world is totally secular. I actually think a fantasy world that's completely 100% secular is pretty interesting. But like, if you're going to do that, you have to do that. You can't just like start talking about it in the third book. Well, like, I had just sort of assumed that death was just like a great erasure. Like, and now all of a sudden there's even a possibility that Aurora could be talking to you from the afterlife. Like, where's this coming from?
Right. And the demon that comes out of the book was another thing. Like, was she saying demon colloquially like she does with Grimm? Because it's literally a horned man. Like, it's a horned creature with 2 legs.
Yeah, what is a demon in this
That's
world?
my suggestion, is get the fuck rid of that. That doesn't make any sense that he gets summoned. It doesn't make any sense that he looks like what he looks like. Just have the demon pig be scarier or something. Learn to describe things.
The geography. For the love of God. Thank you, Andrew, for bringing this up earlier. Please fix the geography. Mm-hmm. The people who can teleport, the people who can fly, the people who can teleport and fly, the people who can tunnel under any earth and reappear under any earth, the people who have a fleet of ships that can instantly transport them across the world, the people with fire wings. You might have noticed that I've basically described every single character indirectly at this point, but the people that can instantly go from one place to another make it impossible to tell where you are geographically in this book. This world feels like it's made of air. Please find a way to pare down the number of people that can just warp and just be places, because I don't know, like, every chapter is so disorienting, because it'll be like, Isla fell through a puddle of stars and ended up in a new place. Right. Isla left and went to another place. And it's impossible to tell where these things are relative to each other. And
it's easy to miss when Isla teleports, because it's explained about as quickly as Jay did it. It's like, Isla portal to Sky Isle. Like, I would trip myself up so many times. It's like, holy shit, is the terminal state of all literature Nova's playlist? Like, do you think, like, Nova's playlist represents, like, I don't know, some final atavistic stage of literature itself? Because I realize how much I'm comparing it to Nova's playlist.
Nova's playlist is the roiling chaos that we hold back every time we write a novel that, like, is more ordered.
That's the darkness that Grimm said he was defending Lightlark from.
Yeah.
But what I mean to say is, it's like in Nova's playlist, where there's this phenomenon where there are teleporting characters, but not only are there teleporting characters, when character A and character B are talking, character C teleports in magically. There's never a sentence that says character C is in this scene. Like in Skyshade, they leave Rimlar in the hive, or the underground bungalow near the hive, and then he shows up randomly on Sun Isle after they had teleported there. So did he fly there with his wings? Did I miss that? Like, syntactically, nothing is being done to establish travel, and there's a way you could do it with teleporting. Just take a little bit more time to set the stage and contrast it. Like, you go from Sky Isle, where it's really cold because you're so high up, to Sun Isle, and it's like suddenly Isla was sweating after having been up in the mountains for so long. Like, with just one sentence, you can change the tracks in our head, but it goes back to the panic attack thing. Like, she's in Sky Isle, she's in Sun Isle, she's flying to Isla, she's on Isla Island. Whatever. She's writing on links. She's teleporting. She's flying. Like,
it's like you're scrolling through YouTube Shorts or something. Like you said, I can't get that out of my head now. That's like so apt. Speaking of names that are apt or comparisons that are apt, that is one. Wraith is not.
Wraith is not. Skibbity Toilet. This is the equivalent of Skibbity Toilet. Oh my God.
Lord. This book is allergic to telling us anything about the cultures of these worlds too. Speaking of, can we slow this down? Like, and missed opportunities. I would love to know more about this wedding. Like, why is the royal wedding between Grimshaw Malvere and Isla Crown? Why is this not like an interesting moment in which to pause and, I don't know, like, look around and put us in this cool fantasy place? Like, ostensibly that's one of the goals of a fantasy book, is to give us that escapism where it's like, oh wow, this culture is so cool, it's like I'm really traveling. But instead it's like, there is a ceremony, necklaces will be exchanged, the vows will be said, it will be officiated by the evil Pope whose friends want to kill you. The end of proceedings.
Whom you spoke to for 5 minutes.
It's like, really? Is that all you could come up with?
That's it. Because it doesn't matter the trappings or the culture or the context. It matters that Grimm is a cute, dark, sexy boy who likes killing people for her and asks, "Who did that to you?" in a dramatic voice.
He's not cute, though. He's, like you said, he's emotionally abusive in this one.
Really
in the last
bad.
one, he was a serial murderer. And also was emotionally abusive in that one as well. Because he was doing that thing where he made her get undressed and dance in front of the thief in front of a sheer curtain.
Yeah.
And then got horny about making her do that.
Her first encounter with the blacksmith was Grimm abandoned her right when they got to his doorstep so that he would fight her, so that Grimm could satisfy his curiosity about Isla's fighting skills. Like, again, this is supposed to be a roller coaster. We're not supposed to be holding him up to the standards of men in the 21st century, but I have to ask, is this actually sexy?
There's a moment during the Batman arc where Isla says, even as she killed the worst in society over and over, more seemed to take their place like relentless weeds. And I was like, I hope Alex Astor doesn't really think that way about the world. That, like, you just have to kill all the people you don't like, but it's a lost cause anyways, because there'll always be more nasty, worthless people. Like, I don't know, it feels very dehumanizing.
No, Jay, this is Isla's villain arc. We're supposed to be like, wow, she's like pretty dark right now or whatever.
I didn't even clock that this was supposed to be a villain arc. That's something that could be improved. Like, Can we make more effort to give this arc a definite beginning and ending? Like, can there be payoff for it? Like, I think the payoff is supposed to be she realizes she has the power to take people's powers when she kills them. So, like, what is it? Secretly, her killing people is satisfying that power's craving. She doesn't actually like it. It's, like, the power in her that likes it. But, like, that's not really payoff. That's just passing the buck. Right. That's just shirking responsibility and being like, oh, it's not actually me. It's just an unchangeable part of my personhood that I attribute to magic.
Right. It's my bloodlust. My magical bloodlust. I don't know.
It makes me want to do that.
I really just despise the Batman arc. Isla's whole heel turn thing. Like, I knew that there was an externality to it because there was all this talk about the beast within or whatever. But, like, it's so bizarre. And, like, Isla's had, like, problems before, but, like, I never took her as, like, a murderer. So to have her just start doing this apropos of nothing was incredibly jarring to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make her seem cool like I think the book wants it to. Like, I assume we're supposed to be getting this, like, ooh, this is evil, but it's very complicated. She's so gray, like Reed. But it doesn't feel like that at all. It feels very mean-spirited. And it feels like the fact that she's killing, like, serial, like, sexual assaulters in particular it feels like reflexive too. It's like, well, if she just kills the worst type of person imaginable, then nobody could actually have any qualms with her doing this, right? And it's like, I mean, yeah, I guess not.
Well,
but it's still weird of her.
It's very weird. And I wonder if this is the book's aesthetic trappings working against it. Like I was calling it a Halloween special earlier. I could have seen a Batman arc from her where she's like, not murdering them and ripping their hearts out, but like beating them up really bad and like leaving them strung up in vines, or she could kill them, but not like, you know, rip out their hearts and throw them at the doorstep of this prophet. You know what I mean? Like scale back the Dark Knight arc and have her, again, 20% more introspection, be like, well, I feel this impulse. I want to do good things in the world. I want things to improve for people. I don't like seeing people being taken advantage of. So that's why I do this. But maybe it is weird that I'm extrajudicially punishing these people, stalking them through the night just because they look shady and punching them when they happen to step out of line, you know?
She can at least wonder like whether or not there are consequences to the things that she's doing.
Or other side of the coin. Other side of the coin is she starts to be the Dark Knight, and she starts just like, boom, pow, string you up for the cops to find you later kind of deal. And then slowly she starts descending into the bloodlust, leading more into the aesthetic trappings, where she's like, oh, but I could tie him up for the police, or I could rip his heart out and feed it to the auger. And like, where you're not just going from Isla like we know her to Isla's murdering people. You have a little bit of a dissension into madness there.
Yeah, she could be like, oh, well, I could just save the police the trouble. They're just going to have to put them through the courts anyways. If I just kill them now, it's actually more efficient. And then, like, that's dumb, but at least she's given some kind of, like, grounding for why she's doing the things that she's doing. Like you're saying, 20% introspection. She doesn't need to suddenly become Holden Caulfield, but she could be a little bit more curious about herself and her own intentions.
And that's interesting the way that you put it there, because Graham says as much, like, oh, well, they would have just rotten in prison anyways. I had meant to get around to them already.
I killed them myself.
Right. And I just never got the time. I never felt like it. So
you know how it is.
And that could be a chance for dramatic irony. We're supposed to be like, wow, Graham, you're really excusing this behavior. Maybe Grimm hasn't found out about the murders and he thinks that she's still doing vigilante justice, hasn't figured out that she's like tearing people's hearts out. And so there's still secrets being kept that could keep the tension going and not have Grimm just appear being like, hey, you're murdering people and I'm cool with that.
Yeah, instead they could have that Smiling Friends moment in Halloween special, actually, when Charlie and Pim are in the woods. And Charlie's like, wait, you've been stringing people up and ripping their hearts out and feeding them to the auger?
It's exactly like this should just be an episode of Smiling Friends.
This should
I
just
think
be
that would fix that.
I think most media should just be an episode of Smiling Friends. Wild Animus is maybe second on that list for me.
Yeah. If Lindy smiled, I think the book would have been way better. Don't have Grimm abuse Isla. That goes into Grimm's reactions to her doing shit. I don't like
this
that.
This is a weird one to get wrong too, because Oro was so sympathetic
Mm-hmm.
in Nightbane. He was such a respectful romantic interest.
Well,
and now
maybe that's what makes him not interesting, and now Grimm's super interesting because he's dark and he has problems.
So, sorry to bring up Catcher in the Rye again, so close to each other. But usually in a book, when like a symbol gets repeated over and over again, there's something to that. Nightbane and Lightlark didn't really have those. So I was actually really interested in Skyshade, that there was so much snake-themed marketing, and that in the acknowledgments, Alex even thanks the people who designed the book and cites the snakes in the design. Obviously, the book itself is full of snakes, and typically that means something, especially in YA fiction like this. In The Bell Jar, you've got various things enclosed in glass. In Catcher in the Rye, you've got the hunting cap. In Lord of the Flies, you've got the pig head on a stick, and you've got the conch. Like, usually these like items that feel very like tangible and like holdable mean something in this type of book. What do the snakes mean? It feels like Alex Astor herself just went through like a I really like snakes arc. And like, okay, to compare to Nova's playlist, again, it feels like there's a layer of snakes in her childhood toy box that represent the year that she bought a bunch of snake toys and got them for Christmas because she was really into snakes, and then eventually they got other shit piled on top of them from successive Christmases, and she dug them back really out cute. For this.
I love this concept of Alex just really liking snakes in like a completely unnuanced, like childish way.
What else could it be? The only thing I can think of is that she uses the word snake because it can mean, you know, like a duplicitous liar. But if so, that's just totally redundant because you don't need to have literal snakes everywhere in the book to suggest thematically that someone in your ranks is a snake. Right. That's the point of it being a figure of speech.
That's what I thought was so interesting is the animals were I thought they were red herrings. I thought the snake would always be like a metaphorical snake.
Yeah, so why are there literal snakes everywhere? Like, and if Alex really does just like the phrase he or she was a snake, why? Why does she like that phrase? Why does she feel that the word snake so well encapsulates the idea of someone who is two-faced? Like, that's what the novel should be about thematically. Like, just do that little extra push of work, like, to think about things for a second, like, slow down. Because I can almost guarantee that snakes are not going to be in the next one.
No, they will not be. They will go the way of, well, not Knives, because Knives are back.
Knives are back in a big way.
Right. They will go the way of Cleo's pet owl that she had in Lightlark that never comes back.
No shit, did she?
Yeah, she had a pet owl that like spied on shit for her, and like
whenever
like it might have been a hawk. It was a predatory bird. I remember it was a bird.
You could be gaslighting me right now, actually, and that would be the funniest outcome to this conversation.
The best part is Alex could be gaslighting both of us, and we're both crazy. I was actually really energized by this segment because with even the things that we were given, there were very simple things that Alex could have done that could have completely reversed the direction of the just nuclear level crash that this book had with tweaking just little things. And we could keep the indulgent Hallmark thing, and we can keep even the snake stuff. Like, I wasn't as mad about the snake thing as Jay was, but like it definitely bothered me. Like, have more introspection, have arcs that go in a certain direction, up or down, have things tie back into each other and give us time to breathe. Start paying down these debts now, so by book 5 coming out, we're not completely checked out. It's not too late. It's not too late, Alex.
It's not too late. No one has seen the 4th book yet. If you haven't soft reset, and you hear this podcast, it is not too late to soft reset now. I think that's the only thing saving this series. And you know what? It wouldn't even save it. It would maybe make it possible for the last 2 books to be good. But that'd be better than none of them being good. Alex, here's what we're going to do. Okay. If you can hear us, put a ghost woman in the 4th book that you continuously refer to as a creature. Okay? If you can hear us, please bring that back. And then we'll know. Then we'll know what kind of talking terms we're on for book 5. You have a year to make this happen. Please put a ghost woman creature in the 4th book.
I don't know if I want to read the next book, Jay. I don't know.
I don't think I do either, but I have a feeling that there's a certain democratic body that would like it if we did.
There's a certain group that even the person reading this can join that can tell us what to do, no matter what we want.
I think this has been very productive. I went into this feeling a little uncertain, and I'm very happy with the work we've done today.
Keep on trucking it, Alex. They had a chance. With this bone and the skyres and the instructions on the page folded in her pocket, they could send Lark away forever. But not if Isla died in this desert. The heat and sand that had made it past the fabric messed with her mind. She saw the past like she was walking through memories. She thought about her best ones, running through the forest after training, smiling up at the treetops, singing with the birds, finding her star stick below the floorboards, portaling into her former friend's Starling Castle for the first time, seeing the world from far above in the hot air balloon with Grimm, walking through the fields of Nightbane, their dark purple color like night being reflected up to the sky. Azul showing her the singing mountains here on Lightlark, rebuilding Wild Isle with Oro, watching nature revive a dead place. There were her worst memories too. So much loss, betrayal, and danger. But there was beauty here, in this world. More good than bad. And she was willing to fight for it. Well, we both thought we wouldn't be able to do it, but we finally closed another book of the Lightlark pentology of wonderful romantasy books, and my mind feels like it is string cheese in the hands of a toddler, because I have so many giant leopards and throwing stars and augurs and prophets and soothsayers in my brain that I don't know if it'll ever come back together.
You could say that we are like Grimm and Oro. We couldn't have fought off this army of zombies ourselves, but together, we can at least have a little tower defense level in the center of this maze that has now been reduced to almost unrecognizable ruin.
Yes.
We are standing here in the center in the aftermath of that great conflict, looking at each other going, what the fuck, man? And I can't wait to see where we go from here.
It's like that part in Mystery Dungeon. One of us is like glowing and like trying to like ascend to the ether, and the other one's just sobbing, and no one knows what's going on. Yeah, this has been fun. I hope this has been useful. To at least the person reading this, at least the person listening
to the girl reading this,
at least the girl reading this, because I don't like it. It is very cathartic to yell at strangers on the internet, but I don't like doing it. Like, this isn't something that I want every episode of this podcast to be like. No. But like with something like this series, what can you do but get mad?
Yeah. It's really frustrating when the failure is so backed by like money and it can't fail. Like, I don't know, like you just hate to see it eating up all the airtime. And we're contributing to that, but I like to think that our like critique twist justifies it. That's how I let myself sleep at night. Right. But man, I agree. I would like it if there were other books that we could talk about. If you have a voting power, this is a cry for help. Please give us a break.
Please. Yeah, so If you want to become a channel member, you can suggest books. If you want to become a member of the Order of the Orb Fox, you can vote for our next episode. At press time, we have not presented our next poll to the Order of the Orb Fox, so who knows what's going to come out of that. It's the middle of the holiday season, so we'll see what we can do. It'll be exciting. It'll be nice to take a break from Skyshade, because this has honestly taken up so much of my brain power for the past couple months. Honestly, it's taken a long time for me to read and digest this book. So
Same.
I finally feel like I can breathe.
If you two are as exhausted as we are after listening to this episode, you can pop on over to our YouTube channel, where if this comes out when I think it's going to come out, I'll have a video that was uploaded about a week ago as you're hearing this on poetry, and it's just on a poetry book that I really liked. It's a very friendly episode with like a nice little writing exercise baked in at the end that you can do alongside me. I had a lot of fun making it, and I hope you'll give it a listen.
Yeah, so lots to look out for. We're doing our own stuff outside of the podcast, so we'd really appreciate it if you guys hung out with us on that. But until then, Alex, thanks for another very productive, very animated episode, and we will see all of you guys around campus.
Yep. See you around campus.
Isla turned slowly to face Grim, who was looming over her. She swallowed. Excuses filled her mind. She opened her mouth to voice one of them, but Grim tilted his head at her, daring her to try to explain her way out of it. He seemed amused by the shock on her face.
You didn't really think I didn't know what you were up to, did you?
She froze. How much did he know? He raised a brow.
Beautiful woman wearing snakes and killing wretched men with blades through their hearts. The Heart Ripper.
He stepped toward her.
That could only be my wife.
She just blinked at him. You don't care? He wasn't upset. He wasn't disgusted. There was something about him seeing the worst of her and not flinching. He shrugged a shoulder.
Kill anyone you want, Heart. Especially these bastards. Kill me, if it will make you feel better.
A stone sunk in her stomach, knowing the prophecy.
The prophecy.
The fucking prophecy. Which one of the 5 million prophecies that were given?